Alright, looks like we're live. What's going on, everybody?
Where was the guy? Are you over there? Oh my god. Did I not explore the other thing? Ah! Chat, is there...
Breaking news: the Nashville shooters manifesto was just real Stolino. It's scary.
What's going on?
I'm not watching that video. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
You're taking a night off.
Guess not.
Why not? Why aren't you allowing yourself a night off?
Some fucking stupid, I don't know.
Talk like that. Just do a short stream then. Don't do too long. I think you need a night off.
Play WRC again. No. So, it turns out my fucking handbrake that I was using last night was broken. I was playing WRC today, and it completely broke. I had to take it all apart, put it back together again. Then, after like 2 hours of fixing it, my fucking steering wheel thing disconnected again. Like, I literally can't get through an hour of fucking driving without something fucking needing to be fixed on my fucking rig. It's so goddamn annoying.
Did you see Hassan's take on From the River to the Sea on Twitter? Hassan said From the River to the Sea is like BLM, and that BLM doesn't mean what. Okay, listen, I hate, this is the problem with like slogans, okay? Like people can pull a lot of different meanings for them. It's the same with like defund the police. Like, does defund the police mean no police, or does it mean like we need to reduce their funding, you know? It's historical borders, which would be from the river to the sea, right? From the Mediterranean River. Or it's a call.
So, are we watching a debate?
Yeah, we are going to be. Thanks for the donation, James.
I guess you don't want to watch the cutting, so here is a different video about the Mephisto.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I'm making what may be a pretty I don't think any shooters that's
So,
We begin with this. Yesterday marked 1 month.
where's the manifesto? I want to actually see the manifesto. Of course, Steven Crowder released it. Um... Fuck pit bulls, don't tell her, and this whole manifesto prove that it actually is problematic to call people cracker because there are some wackos out there that will take it seriously in Minecraft. White people? I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. Thanks for the donation though, fuck pit bulls. Kill those kids, those crackers going to pirate private fancy schools, those fancy khakis and sports backpack. Wealthier daddies, Mustangs, convertibles, fuck you little shits. Wish to shoot you, weak ass dicks with your mop yellow hair. Want to kill all you little crackers, bunch of little faggots. With your white privilege, fuck you, faggots. Okay.
Are you just angry or just depressed? Take a few minutes to just meditate and center yourself.
I'm angry and depressed, but, yeah, I meditated earlier.
Hi VG.
Hello, Stu. Thanks for the donation, Stu. I'll be fine. Thanks for the donation, James. So... my interpretation of this is this kid was jealous of a bunch of kids that had it better than them. This doesn't really seem to be motivated by race or anything. That's what it seems like, anyway.
Called a genocide of the Jewish people who are there right now. It really depends on who's saying it. It's basically just like saying we will have our land back. Like we want our land back. You know, so
No, it's not. From the river to the sea is an anti-Semitic slogan.
what do you mean by we want our land back? Do you mean like it
So apparently Frank thinks he still has liver damage and can't sleep. Guess the diet, Wi-Fi shielding, grounding, and tanning doesn't do jack shit. Go to 833.
Frank is a fucking hypochondriac. He doesn't have fucking liver damage.
I haven't slept in like 3 days. My liver's fried. Wednesday night, Thursday night, I didn't
I don't know why he's obsessed with liver. He always mentions the fucking liver.
like sleep at all. Or no, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, I didn't sleep at all. And then last night was kind of okay. So I'm not feeling so hot. Thursday, I did come down to work a little bit, but my stomach was a little messed up, so I didn't do that much work. So I was here by myself when my guys are off, but my guys are back here today, and they've been doing a lot of work. We have an extra guy working now because one of my guys might be going home next month. I don't know if he's...
Yeah, his Wi-Fi shielding, grounding, tanning, liver-friendly diet that he's following clearly isn't working for him. Or he's just insane. Thanks for the donation, straight gay guy.
I can't believe someone would target kids like this. It makes me glad she's dead.
Well, yeah, it just seems like a very nasty person. Looks like the only real motivation for the shooting was jealousy. So yeah. Thanks for the donation though, Dodo. Fuck Pitbulls donated $2. I wish Americans were as based as the Brits. British people are the fucking most cucked English-speaking country on the fucking planet.
The American XL Bully Dog is a danger to our communities, particularly our children. I share the nation's horror at the recent videos we've all seen. Yesterday we saw another suspected XL Bully Dog attack, which has tragically led to a fatality. It's clear this is not about a handful of badly trained dogs. It's a pattern of behaviour, and it cannot go on. While owners already have a responsibility to keep their...
I like how fucking...
Did you see the doctor get your meds adjusted?
Yeah, I did. So I am taking more of an antipsychotic. And I have another antipsychotic to help with sleep. Seems to be helping a little bit. But I'm gonna have an appointment in the future with a psychiatrist. Thanks for the donation, James. What's funny is, like, the UK government will be like, oh, there's a pattern of behavior, let's ban these fucking bully dogs. But then they won't ban, like, Muslim immigration to any degree, and then you see, like, these no-go zones, Muslim gangs popping up, suicide bombings, and, like, just bomb attacks, all this fucking shit. Oh yeah, knife attacks from these, radical Muslims. They won't do anything to, like, reduce Muslim immigration or screen these people better. Like, why, like, of all things, a certain breed of dog? Like, who fucking cares?
dogs under control, I want to reassure people that we are urgently working on ways to stop these attacks and protect the public. Today I have tasked ministers to bring together police and experts to firstly define the breed of dog behind these attacks with a view to then outlawing it. It is not currently a breed defined in law, so this vital first step must happen fast. We will then...
They're going to end up finding that there's no one particular breed that's doing these attacks, and it's all going to be like a bunch of different dogs, and then they're not going to do anything.
Ban the breed under the Dangerous Dogs Act, and new laws will be in place by the end of the year. These dogs are dangerous. I want to reassure the public that we will take all necessary...
These dogs are dangerous. We don't know what dogs they are, but they're dangerous. Yeah, right. Like the guy just full on acknowledges we have no idea what breed these dogs are, but they look kind of the same, so... Okay.
...steps to keep people safe.
Yeah, they're gonna get dog breed experts. These dog breed experts are gonna look at all these attacks. They're going to find absolutely no pattern with any breed. It's probably going to be like some different categories of like Yorkshire Terrier, a different fucking bully breed. They're going to find a lot of mutts, so mixed breed dogs, and then they're just going to throw their hands up in the air and say, uh-huh.
It is so fucking retarded to me how countries will ban breeds of dogs. You'll find all sorts of dogs with similar behaviors if they were trained poorly. I feel that as long as you can properly train your pets, people won't get mauled. It's all training.
Yeah, some of the nicest dogs I've ever met have been, like, bully breeds, so... I guess the argument is most people or a large amount of people can't train their dogs properly, and these dogs are particularly dangerous with poor training. Which may be the case, but again, there's no research supporting this. The only thing you can find are case reports, so who the fuck knows? I don't suspect this is really going to do anything, but we'll see, I guess. Thanks for the donation, OmniVegan.
Do you think you might end the stream early?
I have no idea. Probably not, but I have no idea. Thanks for the donation, James. Patriot donated $2. Hey, Richard. Not sure how much you pay attention to geopolitics, but do you think Russia would be able to win a two-front war against Ukraine and Georgia? No. No way in hell. Thanks for the donation, though, Patriot. They already are struggling against Ukraine, so no.
You're a crime guy. How do we do a law and order president who's facing 4 different sets of indictments in the country?
Listen.
7
million border crossings.
Fact check at home, okay? Because I know that conservatives like to play fast and loose. 7 million at the border was not border crossing, it was encounters at the border. You think that at any point in fighting in any Middle Eastern war, we have more private military troops on the ground than actual U.S. military troops fighting, not like people that are doing construction, not people that are cooking in kitchens.
Yes.
But economic policy is a bit harder.
I'm sorry. Shut your face. There were 17,000 of these contractors as of April and the year that we drew out. The Biden administration dropped them to 7,800. Closer to the withdrawal, they were dropped down to...
The problem, of course, is the people. The dogs are innocent.
Well, yeah, totally. It's always going to be the people. I don't know why they can't just ban the people. Like, if your dog attacks somebody like that, ban the person. I don't know why we're punishing the dog. Clearly, it's the fucking person's fault. Thanks for the donation, though, James.
To 2,700. This would be more than
contractors, I'm saying fighting force.
This would be more than the... Oh, now you're changing the parameters.
I didn't change it. I explicitly said fighting force. And I said, not people that are like there for construction, not people that are for cooks or chefs, because as you said before, but those aren't our fighting forces.
I'm not talking about chefs or construction workers. In your face.
I literally found the article that you're reading from, and the article itself is backing my point. The cuts are especially acute for private security contractors and for logisticians and mechanics. These are not fighting private military contractors.
The mechanics are, I just said that, the mechanic. I knew you were going to say that. I just said, I know you're going to spaz out when I say mechanics. Here's a direct quote from the article.
It does suggest the U.S. is not substituting for troops with money for contractors, which is a claim you just made.
Bulk of this federal welfare spending, supposedly, that's going to the state of Kentucky goes to exorbitantly large military bases. Again, I'm not sure, like, what is so hard to understand about this.
Yeah, I'll look up this, but I did look up what Sean said, and I can see that the federal funds that were spent in Kentucky, 3 is the Department of Agriculture at $2 billion, 2 is the Department of Veteran Affairs at $2.5 billion, and then 1 is the Department of Defense at $8.3 billion. So
I'm out of here.
I'm just kidding, actually. Department of Defense was number 3 at $8.3 billion, 2 was the Social Security Administration at $19 billion, and 1 was the Department of Health and Human Services at $116 billion. So the idea that military bases are what's playing into Kentucky's like absorption of federal funds is bullshit.
If you think that Biden would be better for America's future, please put your hand up. Ryan's just doing a quick count right now. And then it's just going to be a percentage change. So at the end of the debate, we'll do the same poll, and we'll see if the same percentage of people would say Biden rather than Trump. So next we'll need, if you think that Trump would be better for America's future, would you slide your hand? Wow. You got it. Thanks so much. And I want to give a quick word from Steven, who's representing Manifold. Steven, seriously, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I want to give you a chance just to share a little bit more about Manifold. Thanks again.
Thank you for putting on this wonderful event. Hi, I'm Steven Gruget. I'm one of the co-founders of Manifold. In a month. What color?
3 reasons. Let's say your top 3 reasons.
Sure, we'll go. Do a few. What do I have? 30 minutes for this, or how long? Because Jesus. First of all, I would like to honor my debate partner, Sean, who has the unenviable position of defending the undefendable Donald Trump. So I guess I'll focus on one area, although I imagine our talks will take us across a lot of different areas. When we're looking for who would be a better president for the next term, I think something that's important is to look for what are the things that the president can actually affect, and what are the records of both of these presidents so far on the things they can claim to affect. One of the areas that I'm going to fixate heavily on, because this is an area where the president can take point, is going to be, of course, foreign policy. Trump's foreign policy in almost every single regard was an unmitigated disaster. The photo opportunities that he had with North Korea, the lack of concessions that he gave from them, the discomfort of our allies in the region as a result from that, exiting us from the Iranian nuclear treaty that we are no longer allowed to re-enter, that we don't have any control over anymore, as Iran races towards nuclear weapons, that we have completely lost all oversight on. The obscuring of the number of drone strikes that we're doing, as Trump has sought under his administration to make it harder to see how many drone strikes were actually happening, and the fact that these drone strikes were still probably increasing or remaining the same under his administration, though it's hard to tell. The abandoning of allied forces in northern Syria, the Kurdish people that we were working with to fight ISIS, that he basically abandoned to Turkish attack. The lack of any real agreement made with the Taliban, the fact that when he did those round of talks with the Taliban, the Afghanistani army was not present, the Afghanistan army was not present, the idea that he kicked the can on the road, or he kicked the can down the road on those talks until the next administration so he wouldn't have to deal with it. The fact that he says that he would be the one to solve the Ukrainian issue despite the fact that he did literally nothing about Russian occupation of Crimea. The fact that he was constantly antagonistic towards both of our neighbors, Canada and Mexico, and our neighbors afar. Angela Merkel famously saying that Europe can no longer look to the United States for leadership around the world. The fact that Trump undermined NATO, questioned why we were even in it, made it sound like the most important part was just individual countries contributing some military budget to it. The fact that the parts of his foreign policy that were supposed to affect us economically sucked. The tariff agreements with China were a disaster. Everybody agrees at this point that it amounted to, I think it was like a $72 billion tax that Americans ended up paying, and it didn't even target China in the way that we wanted it to, as opposed to, say, the CHIPS Act that Biden did that actually centered a lot of new semiconductor manufacturing at home. I'll do a foreign policy there, and then I'm sure we'll talk about other things like crime, domestic policy, and everything there, but I'll turn it over to Sean, see where he wants.
Why does poop stain my whitey tighties? I ripped a massive butt cheek shuddering fart this morning and now I have a streak that dried and chipped off like dry paint and left a mark. The washer never gets rid of streaks. Must I accept my shitty drawers?
Maybe just switch to darker underwear. Thanks for the donation, Poop Boy.
Let's go from there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you want to focus on what the president can actually impact, because as of right now, with split government and likely we're not going to have a president, at least for the full term, with both chambers of Congress, it really is down to what the president can impact. Now, it's interesting that you would lead with foreign policy, because one president that we're talking about actually had a guy that had to be stripped of security clearances due to the fact that he was loyal to Iran, which was uncovered in emails in a recent scandal. This, of course, is Rob Malley, and Rob Malley was only the head of our side of the negotiations for Iran. And it turns out he was recruited by the Iranians years ago and was advocating for them. So in that particular point, I'd rather have somebody rip up a deal than put in an agent for the other side as the person to negotiate a new deal. As far as what the president can impact, one of the big things that they can affect in our day-to-day lives is through the regulatory state. Now, Trump was actually the first real deregulator in American history. With just 20 regulations that he removed while he was president, just 20, the average American is estimated to have saved, in terms of income, $3,100. That's $3,100 in your pocket due to the fact that the Trump administration was using his executive power to pare down the regulatory state. This amounted to $220 billion in cost savings for consumers and for businesses. By contrast, our buddy Joe Biden has added $360 billion in new regulations, big ticket regulations, and compliance for this. Just the paperwork is 220 million hours. If you think that that is not impacting you economically, you got another thing coming. And speaking of economic impact, many of our major cities in this country have to deal with a migration crisis. Now, one of these candidates, even though the wall didn't get built, let's be honest, campaigned on building a wall. The other candidate campaigned on having asylum seekers rush to the border. Now, here's the problem. I'm in favor of asylum. Everybody should be in favor of asylum if people are in danger and all of that. We want to help people because we're kind and compassionate people. But the thing is, when you have migrants that know for a fact, and they're economic migrants, make no mistake about it, that they can go to a border agent, say the right words, and then be put into our asylum court system, that creates a giant backlog. It actually hurts our ability to help those who are legitimately seeking asylum, and this was encouraged by the Biden administration. By contrast, probably the best policy of any president related to immigration, in the last 20 years, President Trump instituted a policy called Remain in Mexico. Now, the idea behind this was pretty straightforward. If you're saying I'm fleeing, let's say Venezuela, due to the fact that I feel like I'm being persecuted or whatever, well, the route to from Venezuela to the United States goes through about 8 different countries. Now, if you're afraid you're going to be killed or persecuted or whatever the reasons for asylum, there is no reason why you shouldn't stop and apply for asylum in each and every one of these policies. Even though it's called Remain in Mexico, it just means apply for asylum in each country and then come to the United States after you're rejected, because again, asylum is supposed to be about.
I remember Lauren Southern made a similar argument like this when it came to migrants coming from all over the place into the UK and Europe. Can't remember the argument against that, but I'm pretty sure the US is like legally required to actually process these asylum seekers. You can't just force people to seek asylum in a bunch of other countries first. If they apply for asylum in a given country, you can't just say, oh, apply somewhere else.
Safety, not economic opportunity. Of course, the Biden administration did not continue that policy. He encouraged people to flee to the border, and now we have about 7 million border crossings, according to the CBD data. A bunch of Republicans will tell you 8 million. You pick whichever number you want. It's not good, and we're suffering the consequences for that. Major cities in this country are having to pay to hotel these people, and what's Biden's response? He wants to fast-track work permits, give these people a faster magnet to further draw them into the United States of America and prolong the crisis. I think the number one thing that a president needs to do is advocate for the citizens of this country. These people are by definition not that, and this is just one of the many reasons why Trump is a better candidate than Joe Biden. Also, Trump is alive. Joe Biden, we don't know. I've seen Weekend at Bernie's. I know you guys have seen it. And, you know, symbolically, destiny.
Okay, dude, the idea that Trump is in better health, are you kidding me? The guy has, like, at least 50 pounds on Joe, if not more. Fat as fuck. Old as fuck, eats McDonald's every day, is under a tremendous amount of stress. Like, Trump could croak at any minute.
He's drinking Red Bull to build up the energy to talk about Joe Biden. Well, I have water because I don't need any hype.
All right. We're going to kick it into an open discussion, so.
Jesus Christ. His only opener is immigrants, though.
I'd like to put it over to the other side, respond to some of what you just heard, and get us into it.
Yeah, I guess the most important determining factor for, Trump's future health is, how effective the U.S. healthcare system operates in federal prisons. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. I'm going to be honest, I haven't even heard of the Rob Malley story with Iran. That might be one, particular person. Is this a person that was appointed directly by Biden?
Yes, he was the person negotiating the new nuclear deal on behalf of America, even though he works for Iran. And by the way, there's other people that also have Iranian ties in that group.
Sure, maybe Iranian ties. Do these people rise to the level of Donald Trump when he was running for election, literally choosing people like Paul Manafort, who was working as an unregistered foreign agent in Ukraine, or people like Flynn who were lying to the FBI in regards to contacts that they had with people in Russia? Does it rise to that level of making those types of personal choices? Do you think Biden is choosing those people in particular? Or?
I mean, first of all, Flynn was allowed to speak to the Russians. He was an incoming person who was going to be on national.
Trump also is a poor eater.
Oh yeah, he's obsessed with McDonald's. He eats McDonald's every day. Like, again, the idea that Trump is in better health than Biden is just crazy. Thanks for the donation, though, James.
Security. Manafort worked for the campaign. Should he have registered as a foreign agent? Sure, and he was prosecuted for that. But again, we're talking about the person negotiating with an enemy nation on this nuclear deal that you seem to want to praise, but he works for the Iranians. And
Flynn,
it's been stripped of all security clearances.
Sure, so if Flynn was allowed to negotiate with the incoming, as an incoming part of the administration, I don't know why he lied to the FBI then about his conversations. Maybe you should talk to him about that.
I mean, it could be a perjury trap, who knows?
I mean, I don't think anybody made him lie if you actually read through any of the testimony related to that. Do we think that, I'm curious, on a broad macro perspective, if we look at the approaches that the presidents have taken to foreign policy, do you think that Donald Trump was better at shoring up support for America internationally, or do you think Joe Biden has done a better job for that?
Well, there's two things. There's one, there's like, oh, are you well liked by like Angela Merkel and all these European leaders? And on the flip side, you have something like the Trump administration sending more weapons to the Ukrainians than the Biden administration, and the Biden administration not realizing that Vladimir to the way he viewed Obama during the Crimea annexation as somebody who wouldn't do anything, which likely is one of the factors that played into his decision to invade Ukraine. So, like, yeah, the Trump, obviously he talks like a goofball and all that, but he tends to appoint people to do the policies, and because he's not particularly interested in individual policies, he's more interested in negotiating and like the whole process of being president, they tend to do a better job. Biden, on the other hand, is just not even awake.
What if
I don't know what he means by sent more weapons to Ukraine. What does that mean? Like small arms, heavy artillery? Because if you, I don't know, if you calculate in, I guess, tonnage of explosives, Biden certainly has sent more aid to Ukraine.
If they thought that Trump would do a better job at negotiating these policies, why is it that almost every single person in his administration that talked about doing foreign policy ended up shit-talking him? I'm pretty sure Pence and the AG at the time had a lot of bad things to say about Trump in regards to North Korea, for instance. Do you think he handled North Korea appropriately?
I mean, what went wrong so much in North Korea that we're even talking about?
The fact that we validated him as a leader, we gave him photo opportunities, and we had talks with him without securing any sort of concessions whatsoever, while telling the rest of the world that we were doing a good job in negotiating something with him, whatever that was.
The question is, as compared to what? So
as compared to not talking to him and continuing to I guess, advertise on the world stage that until he's ready to come and have talks about cutting down their missiles program, cutting down their nuclear weapons program, until they're ready to have those talks, they're not going to be as validated as
I mean, but none of that worked for, I don't know, how many years since the Korean War with North Korea? Like, we're on the third member of this freaking hereditary dynasty?
Sure, but I mean, now in the region, you've got Biden, who has better relations with Japan and South Korea, having talks about what to do with North Korea. When Donald Trump was in charge, we talked to Kimmy, we gave him some photos, and then we left.
I mean, the South Koreans wanted to do a joint Olympics under the Moon government when Trump was president. So, like, he was also, like, mirroring, to a certain extent, the policies of the Moon government at the time.
Okay, so then to be clear, you thought that Trump having photo opportunities and legitimizing Kim as a leader without actually securing any concessions, with them continuing to race towards a nuclear program and continuing to test
well, they already have a nuclear program. See,
yeah, but now they also have they have U.S. approval for what they're doing, essentially. Now it seems like the U.S.
They don't have actual U.S. approval. You're talking about like a perception of U.S. approval, which I don't think is granted. The idea that North Korea is an ally of the United States or anybody legitimately believes that is ridiculous. Remember, the way that this started is that Trump kept threatening Kim Jong-un over and over and over again, to the point where they wanted to ask for a meeting. Because we tried this like posturing in the same way that we did for, again, since 1950, whenever the Korean War had a ceasefire, because it never technically ended, and it didn't get us anywhere. Like, now we actually had an opportunity. We sent our best diplomat, Dennis Rodman, over there. He plays some like dope basketball, and you know, like, it is what it is.
Yeah, but I don't know why we think that we did anything when this was, I'm pretty sure, the first time a North Korean leader has had a photo op, a handshake, and Jesus Christ, a salute from our president. I don't know why we just hand wave that and say he was trying something. He didn't try anything. All he wanted was, and this is going to be a theme for all of Trump's administration, the only thing he wanted was a photo op. That was it. There was no diplomatic plan there. All we did was enrage or anger our allies in the region. And you can say that, who cares, it's just a photo op. But he's the president of the United States.
Who's enraged by that? Again, the Moon government at the time was very friendly to North Korea. He crossed the DMZ zone during the Olympics. Like, remember, they were hyping his sister
sure,
as
I
this
understand
girl
we have
boss
the Olympics,
dictator in the media.
Yeah, we have the Olympics story, but tensions at the time were not good, because shortly after our meetings with Kim, they literally go right back to testing
missiles. But that's what North Korea always does.
Yeah, except now they've done it after getting photos for the first time with the U.S. president.
All right, I mean, again,
okay,
this is like the most petty thing, maybe because you don't want to talk about Iranian spies in the Biden administration.
Sure, I don't even know if that claim is true, unfortunately. I've never even heard of it.
Why did Rob Malley lose his security clearance?
I don't know. Why did he lose his security clearance?
Because he was recruited by Iran well before he was in the Biden administration, along with other people, again, who are supposedly negotiating for our side on this nuclear deal.
So you're saying he was working as an unregistered foreign agent or a spy?
I don't know which one. We'll wait for the shakeouts of potential indictments in the future. But
well, how long ago did he lose his security clearance?
This is recent. Like, I think news of this broke, if I have the date right here somewhere. I believe it was like last month or something like that.
And what was the reason why he lost the security clearance?
Because he was tied deeply to Iran. We have emails from him and contacts in the Iranian government, and the perception of those emails, at least according to the reporting, is that he is still loyal to the Iranian government.
Okay. It's interesting that he hasn't been charged with any crime. If it sounds like what you're talking,
well, it's like a month. Like, sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah, but why is any of this information public if there hasn't been a charge yet?
Because we have media that like pursue stories, and sometimes
and get leaks from the government about potential espionage investigations.
That happens all the time. What do you mean?
It doesn't happen.
You're talking about the Trump administration. Everything was leaked.
I don't have information about that story. I don't think any of that story is true, but I guess
all right.
If
you say so, I mean, either he lost his security clearance or he didn't. Like, this isn't up for debate.
Well, you can lose your security clearance for a variety of reasons. You can lose a security clearance for not declaring that you're friends or in a relationship, for instance, with somebody from a foreign country, or or you could lose a security clearance for a whole host of different reasons that don't involve actual espionage of the United States.
Well, I didn't say, first of all, you brought up espionage. I didn't say he would be charged with espionage. Again, that came out of your mouth. I just told you what happened, and it's an ongoing developing story.
Okay, well, I think that the ongoing developing story of somebody losing a security clearance that was involved in Iranian nuclear, or some sort of Iranian negotiations, I don't think it's quite as bad as Donald Trump exiting us from the nuclear Iranian deal that was allowing us to keep tabs on their nuclear program.
I mean, that deal was crap, and we had a very similar deal with the North Koreans, since you brought them up back in the 90s under Clinton, and obviously that did not prevent them from developing a nuclear weapon.
I don't think we had a deal with the North Koreans that allowed the United Nations into their nuclear facilities to do constant inspections.
I don't know the specifics of the North Korean deal, but like these kind of deals don't tend to work. You also had Ben Rhodes.
This deal was working for Iran. It literally was working.
Yeah, it was working for Iran. That's the problem.
It was working for the whole world because we were preventing Iran from approaching a nuclear weapons program.
I totally disagree.
Okay, the UN disagrees with you, but okay, that's fine.
What do they know? Also, in terms of foreign policy, I mean, look at what is going on in the Middle East right now. Like President Orangeman, you could say whatever you want about him, but he made it pretty clear that Israel is our ally after, I don't know, 20 presidents. That's an exaggeration. After 4 presidents promised that they were going to recognize that Jerusalem was the capital of Israel, Trump actually did it. And then, weirdly enough, even though we were told by the media for years that making peace between Israel and Palestine was the key to working out recognition and all these things with the Arab world, it turns out that not doing that, standing firm with your ally, actually made that clear that that was off the table. And then we started to see recognition deals from these nations of Israel, our ally, during the Trump administration. And the wonder kid that everybody made fun of because he was put in charge of 25 million things, not my favorite person, Jared Kushner, actually did negotiate pretty well on behalf of our ally.
So I'm pretty sure Donald Trump moving the embassy to Jerusalem has been lauded as a catastrophic decision because he did it for literally no reason other than to antagonize the Palestinians in the region, which, as we can see, hasn't moved us.
Can I ask you a question? Where is the capital of the United States of America?
D.C.
All right, and like who decides that? I'm just curious.
Sometime in the founding of our country, what do you mean? Who decides that?
The United States of America would decide where their own capital is, right?
Sure, yeah.
So like if Canada didn't recognize that our capital was D.C. and they said it was, you know, like
is Canada currently occupied territory
like
from the
Cleveland
United
or something? Like
Sure.
would it be weird if all of our allies recognize what Canada said, or should they recognize what we declare our capital as? Because Israel has declared their capital as Jerusalem. This is about recognition of your ally.
Yeah, does Canada
and like that seems like a basic thing that you should honor.
Does Canada own any part of Washington, D.C.?
I don't know. Does Palestine own anything? Is it even a country?
Okay, so the whole point of that is that it's contested territory. That's why recognizing Jerusalem as the capital is probably not a good idea, because who even owns Jerusalem?
It's a great idea, because if you're aligned with the country and they're telling you this is their capital, you can either recognize it like you would for a country that you're aligned with, or play this game where you're like, okay, we're all going to promise it and then not actually deliver on it. Do you think it's weird that Bill Clinton, George Herbert Walker Bush, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama all made this promise and never delivered?
No, because the whole point of the capital of Jerusalem and moving the embassy to Jerusalem is that Jerusalem is partially contested territory. That there's a huge issue about who actually owns which parts of Jerusalem that need to be resolved that the Trump administration didn't move us any closer to resolving before just smacking.
Yeah, so I think I disagree with Destiny on this. I think Israel does have a legitimate claim to Jerusalem. I have various reasons for that. But yeah, I don't see that causing any more hostility. I don't see how Trump recognizing Israel belonging to, or Jerusalem belonging to Israel, making Palestinians upset, like it doesn't mean anything.
The embassy down in Jerusalem is saying, oh, look, we did a good thing. But all it did was increase tensions in the area. It didn't help anything. It didn't do anything good.
That is true. The largest terrorist attack in Israeli history happened under the Trump administration. Oh, wait, that was last month under Biden.
What did Biden do to increase hostility between...
Well, we do have an intelligence base over there. Why did that fail?
I don't know what any of those things have to do. So part of the reasons why the people in the Gaza Strip are so incensed at people in Israel is partially because of, you brought these up, the Abraham Accords. None of those bilateral peace agreements were impressive. They were already with countries that had had relatively normal relationships with Israel for years. They didn't involve any of the actual countries that have a lot of issues with Israel, such as Jordan, such as Syria, such as Iran. And the only thing it did was continue to antagonize relations between Israel and Palestine because there were more peace treaties being signed in the Middle East without any explicit statement on what would be done with the contested territory.
Because it is a myth that this Israel-Palestine thing is the key to recognition for the state of Israel amongst these countries. Once you take that off the table and then you start negotiating with these other nations directly, you have all these places that are, you are right, they were working with Israel like kind of under the table while pretending that they still didn't recognize them, but getting at least a few of them to start the process of coming forward and recognizing the nation is progress. And that did happen.
Yeah, but it's progress in an area that doesn't matter, and it's making regressions in areas
But
that
why
do
would
matter.
why would that not matter? It's
It
like
doesn't
the
matter
broader
because these
it's like the
countries were
broader
already-
Middle East.
Because these countries were already communicating with each other more or less, and now all it's
And
done
by the
is-
way, one of the foundations of this alliance is the fact that Iran is a regional power that they're all trying to check in the area. So again, hostility towards Iran, trying to isolate them as a strategy, also ended up leading to this recognition.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're telling me Saudi Arabia needed a bilateral peace agreement with Israel to fight with Iran?
No, I'm saying that using their shared enemy rather than this conflict between Israel and Palestine as the entry point towards recognition is a better strategy.
Yeah, but the conflict between Israel and Palestine is like one of the defining conflicts in the region. And Trump didn't move any closer towards that, and in a lot of ways hurt our ability to resolve it by aggressively acknowledging a capital and moving an embassy to a place in contested territory, and then in signing peace agreements without including the Palestinians in any of the talks. The same way that he did the Doha agreements with the Taliban without including the Afghanistan government. The same way that he agreed to pull out of Syria without consulting any of the Kurdish people that were about to be mowed down by an invading Turkish force.
But why would, again, I need to negotiate with the Palestinians to talk about this alliance that you're building against Iran?
Because Israel-Palestine is like the contested territory.
Yeah,
in the
that
Middle East
is
needs to
a
be
contested
solved.
territory. You realize that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. They could have this issue, this border issue that is over here, but the main issue is that these countries are all natural enemies of Iran, and you're trying to build alliance to counterbalance that.
No,
like
you're
one
not.
has
Nobody
nothing to do with
cares.
the
We're
other.
not trying to build an alliance to counter Iran in the Middle East. That's just not.
What are you talking about? Have you ever seen the map of like all the bases that we have surrounding Iran?
How
Like,
long have those bases existed since
why
the
are we
Cold
trying
War? Do you think
why
we're
are we
gonna fight
trying
against Iran?
Why
We're
are
fighting
we?
against the Soviet
I said
Union.
counterbalance. Why are we trying to negotiate a nuclear deal even under the Biden administration with Iran if we're not trying to keep them in check?
Because anti-nuclear proliferation is one of like the stated goals of the entire world at the moment. So we try to discourage essentially everybody from approaching nuclear weapons.
So your position is that we're not trying to keep the Iranians in check as a foreign policy goal that transcends a bunch of different administrations.
My position is that if we wanted to prevent Iran from approaching nuclear weapons, the best way to do that was through that joint plan of action, the Iranian nuclear deal that Donald Trump
That's
pulled
a
us
nice way
out
of
of
not
without
answering.
actually-
That's a nice way of not answering the question after you're saying that we're not trying to limit Iran.
No, I don't think we're trying to build a coalition against Iran in the Middle East.
What are you talking? Of course we are. We're trying to have a check on Iranian expansion. Of course we are.
Where is Iran expanding to?
Well, right now they're expanding their influence into Iraq, or do you deny that? That they have a lot of
Iran
influence
and
in the new
Iraq
Iraqi
have been,
government?
Yeah, but the way to do that is to build military alliances?
Yes.
Okay, I
I
disagree.
mean,
I don't
wait,
think there's anything to
hold
substantiate
on.
that.
Let me just ask you a question, right? Okay. So do you think, as a strategy, I don't know, against, let me just make up a country that might like want to aggress, as a strategy against like Russian aggression, that we could have an alliance like a North American like alliance, like something like NATO, and that would be a check against Russian expansion in the future if you just align those countries militarily?
NATO was.
I would just like to see the evidence in favor of this idea that the U.S. is trying to create a military alliance against Iran. Where is he getting this idea?
Created to counter the second world, not one
The second
country.
world, like multiverse, like what do you mean?
In the Cold War, you have the first world, which
Oh,
are the
okay,
Western
yeah.
aligned powers, and you have the second world, that are the Soviet aligned powers.
Sorry, I was watching a movie
so
before
the
this.
Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact is what NATO was created to serve as a
Yeah,
counterbalance
but it still
against.
exists, and we still admit new members as a counterbalance towards Russian aggression. Because Russian expansion west predates the Soviet Union. It's the whole history of the nation. The reason we have that alliance there is, I mean, the original reason was keep Russia out and keep Germany down. Because we want to prevent conflict from breaking out on the European continent, because the last time that happened in a major way, well, the last two times were 2 world wars. So yeah, you do build military alliances in specific regions to check an expanding power. Like, it seems like you're just arguing this to argue this.
I'm not arguing to argue it. You're trying to make it sound like these random bilateral peace agreements with countries that are already incredibly friendly towards us and pretty friendly towards Israel means
But they
anything.
never-
Why not work towards moving to normalizing relationships with Iran instead of being intensely provocative towards them?
They never formally like recognized Israel. What are you talking about?
They were already communicating
in a bunch of these
and more
countries.
or less hating.
I disagree with Destiny on this. The Iranian regime is a fascist, totalitarian regime. They support terror across the Middle East, including terror against Israel. The idea that we should be trying to get friendlier with Iran is, I think, ridiculous.
In a bunch of these countries, even though they're allies with us and they're allies and we're allies with Israel, if you have an Israeli passport in your Israeli passport stamp in your passport, you couldn't even go like to both countries. This is one of the reasons why with the State Department you have to get 3 different passports sometimes if you're traveling between this region. But yeah, like of course, obviously.
I think if the goal is to reduce tensions in the region, then the goal should be the normalization of relationships with Iran. That has been like the key goal for foreign policy for probably the past 20 years, before or 20, 30 years, before Bush identified Iran as the axis of evil. That was our goal. It was towards normalizing relationships with Iran. That was part of what the Iranian nuclear deal was for.
Except,
guys, if you can tie all all of this into the Trump.
Okay.
Sure.
Except the Iranian nuclear deal emboldened the Iranians. It put them into a position where their neighbors ended up fearing them, and that ended up setting up the impetus for this potential alliance.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I guess we won't get into the Syrians or the Afghanistan conflict or anything like that. But yeah, I think that time and time again, I think that Donald Trump pursued things that didn't matter. They gave him, I guess, photo ops. We got this. Every conservative touts this peace in the Middle East that didn't really happen.
I didn't say peace in the Middle East.
I didn't say you did. I said that a lot of troubles and a lot of these people talk about peace in the Middle East or the historic importance of these peace agreements. They aren't that really. Obviously, as we see today, they didn't get us any closer towards normalizing relations with the people that matter, like Iran, like Syria, like Lebanon, like figuring out what was going on in Palestine. Obviously, the situation in Afghanistan, him, again, kicking the can down the road so we wouldn't have to deal with that in his administration with the Taliban was deplorable. Abandoning our Kurdish allies in Syria after they helped us eliminate ISIS, or at least in parts of Syria, and abandoning them to the Turkish army, that was deplorable. Not doing anything about Crimea and somehow pretending like he would have stopped.
The Crimea happened in 2014. Who was president? Was that Trump?
I'm sorry, did Russia pull all their troops out for the 4 years that Donald Trump was president?
No, but like that happened.
Clearly that didn't matter.
That happened in 2014, and the Trump administration was heavily arming the Ukrainians.
Yeah,
more so than the Obama administration.
It's been a policy to sell them weapons, but
he ramped that up, even though people were saying that he ramped that up.
He also got impeached for threatening to take it away because they wouldn't do investigations on it. Allegedly. Well, he was impeached for it.
Listen, I heard that was a perfect phone call. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know so you're a crime guy. How do we do a law and order president who's facing like 4 different sets of indictments in the country?
Listen. All I'm going to say is that if you think that any other president, if they had these alleged crimes waged against them, would be prosecuted in the same way, I think you would definitely be lying. The fact of the matter is they're prosecuting him because he's the orange man.
Dodge. That is a total dodge. Yeah, this guy is just refusing to acknowledge the fact that Trump is just clearly fucking guilty. And then his response to that is, oh, well, if this was another president, they'd be treated differently. Well, no other president has committed the fucking crimes Trump has, so you can make whatever assumptions you want, but, like, again, none of these other people fucking committed the crimes that Trump is guilty of. Well, thank you for that, E. Appreciate the donation, sir.
And that is the only reason.
Okay, I will agree with this. George Bush should be in jail. He absolutely should be.
Can you give me an example of which of the indictments are comparable to past crimes that you believe that presidents have committed that haven't been pursued?
I mean, you could prosecute. So one of the things that they used was in Georgia, they try to use a RICO statute against President Trump. Now, you could have actually used that against all presidents. Ben Shapiro made this argument back in like 2010 as a way to deal with their administration as a group. But like nobody ever wanted to do that because presumably opening that can of worms on past administrations should set a precedent that you could do this to any successive administration. But President Joe Biden, even though he's asleep, decided to have his attorney general, his Justice Department break those norms anyway. And now it's considered a potential standard going forward that when you leave office in the United States of America, the next guy can come in and prosecute you. Even the Obama administration didn't do that. Even the Obama administration didn't do that for the Bush administration.
Could you react to 10:20 to the 12:30 mark on this video? This guy claims that Indian women are no longer going to be traditional and it's freaking me out. Because I just got into an arranged marriage.
Welcome back.
Let me take a look.
Need to pay attention because the tidal wave of female empowerment has not truly hit the Middle East and South Asian cultures, but it's coming and it's going to be brutal. I'll see these little reels on Instagram by these.
Women literally have fewer rights than dolphins in India, so...
Imlate, what are they debating?
They're debating who's going to be a better president, Trump or Biden. Thanks for the donation, Foamer. Women in India have fewer rights than dolphins, and the government has actually done forced sterilization practices against women in particular, even though it's much easier to sterilize men. And they've literally killed women doing this shit. They've gotten doctors to lie to women, say that, oh, they have cancer or something, or they need some sort of procedure. Then they try to either give them a hysterectomy or tubal ligation. And some of them have fucking died from this. So, like, what's more brutal? Women getting human rights, or, like, maintaining the status quo where women are literally fucking mutilated against their will?
Brown girls, you make my stomach hurl. And they're just so adamant and proud about, oh, 70 years ago we would have been forced to get married and have kids, but now we're independent and have our own careers and we don't care about that. You got the curry cells and Arab cells in the comments section. Oh,
arranged marriages are really only a rich people thing. Poor people don't really do that.
I have a confession to make. I am the guy that runs Veganism Exposed. What you gonna do, bitch? Yeah. 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 Yeah? Yeah. 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 Yeah? Oh yeah, bitch. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah?
Thanks for that. My name is Bitchard. Appreciate the donation. Yeah, so now this guy's talking about arranged marriages. Arranged marriages are really only a rich people thing generally because, like, again, poor people don't own land. They don't have, like, any net worth, basically. So why would there be an arranged marriage if there's no benefit to the family? So that's only really a rich person thing. Maybe sometimes poor people get arranged marriages if it lets them climb the socioeconomic ladder. But that's not a normal fucking thing, dumbass.
Oh, what about family and tradition? And you'll be lonely when you're 35.
Do you really believe a 5 out of 10 Muslim or Hindu girl that came to this country and she's like a PA or a lawyer, a doctor, engineer, she's truly crying over the fact that she's not going to get the chance to marry 3 out of 10 Sandeep, that her mother or grandmother had to and found the guy disgusting, but that was tradition. You think she's really torn up inside about that? No, she's not going to, because she's on her own terms. And so you have to understand, Brother Amr said it best, ugly men cannot make demands. All this red pill, I'm going to run game, I'm going to manipulate my wife, this stuff is not going to work on the long run because you signed a contract, you're invested, maybe you have kids, you're going to...
Fuck.
Lord Gaines. How do I get pussy?
You go to Hentai Haven and just click your favorite category list. Thanks for the donation, Carl. Okay, so this guy is upset that arranged marriages are going out of fashion because I'm assuming he figures the only way he'd be able to get a partner is by an arranged marriage. Again, what's retarded about this is the only way you're going to get an arranged marriage is if you come from a wealthier family. Because why would somebody marry their daughter off to somebody who's from a poor family? They wouldn't. So you're just exchanging, you know, the luck of the draw when it comes to looks for the luck of the draw when it comes for money. So how does this benefit any incels in any way? It doesn't.
Do what she wants. Maybe she'll give you a little bit of leeway to pretend that you're in control, but at the end of the day, it's going to be her terms. Now, by the way, as I said earlier, for some of you, this is the best thing that can happen. You hunker down, you get your stability, you serve your Khaleesi, bend the knee, and it will provide that measure of an identity that otherwise you're going to be listless, pretending that you're 33 Secrets or Troy Francis or Jason Blaha trying to pick up men on the internet.com. Me personally, I'm not against the possibility of another
Love how he fucking mentions Blaha.
relationship, but as far as especially the United States is concerned, I don't intend on taking it seriously unless you genuinely find a unicorn, which that's unlikely.
Okay, well, that guy's a loser.
And by the way, the crimes that he was accused of were actually torture related, ordering it, covering it up, detaining people in Guantanamo Bay in violation of their civil rights without charges. And Obama, like, you know, you say what you want, and whether you agree or disagree with this, he seemed to set a precedent that the Trump administration.
Can you give an in-depth analysis on how the French and Russian Revolution has shaped today's society? Please provide a lot of details.
Yeah, sure. So, kind of normalized fucking your mom. So, that's a major way it changed society. Everybody fucks your mom. Thanks for the donation, Hey.
Administration actually followed when they were in office, which was we don't look backward, we look forward. But Biden's like, nah, never mind, we're going to look backward for this particular guy. And this is destructive to our entire process.
So firstly, there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the DOJ is working underneath Biden, or that Biden is ordering any of these investigations.
Who appointed Merrick Garland?
Who appoints the chair of the Federal Reserve? You think Biden sets the interest rates?
Who appointed Merrick Garland?
Why do you think the appointment is what
the
determines
Federal Reserve?
policy?
The Federal Reserve is a unique, like, institution in the United States of America that does not directly serve under the executive branch. So this is why they're not analogous. The Department of Justice is something that is directly under the auspices of the president.
Camel donated $2. Let me take a look. What the data tells us about love and marriage in India. What do Indians think about love and marriage? 22-year-old something. What am I supposed to be looking at in this stupid article? 93% of married Indians and said that theirs was an arranged marriage. Oh, really? Just 3% had love marriage. Another 29% as a love come arranged marriage, which usually indicates. Is it really that common? I thought it was way less common. Only very slight change over time. 94% of octogenarians had an arranged marriage. Figure remains over 90%. I'd have to look into this. That is weird. I wonder how many of these... Yeah, I would wonder because I'd like to see the demographics between, like, Sikhs, Hindus, Jains, and Muslims. Because those are the major religions. Depending on where you conduct the survey, I'd imagine that would have an effect. Okay, maybe I was wrong about that.
So when Barr was contradicting direct statements that Donald Trump made, was Barr working under the direct order of Donald Trump?
He was under the direct order of President Trump. I mean, one of the things that you could actually ding Trump for is that he didn't fire people enough. Like, for some reason, he wouldn't for some reason he wouldn't fire. It's true. Like a lot of these people just ended up quitting the administration. Like he didn't fire Anthony Fauci. He had every power to do so. He had every power to fire his own attorney general.
Gotcha. So just as a matter of like recent historical record, the DOJ does not work under command of the President of the United States.
Of course it does.
That is a fantastic claim. I'd be curious if you could point to investigations where the President of the United States ordered the DOJ to begin investigating enemies of the President.
A president can order the DOJ to
We're not asking
examine
the president. He could theoretically, he could make that order. He could theoretically, but to do so would be an unbelievable breach of norms, which unfortunately we became a bit accustomed to under Donald Trump. But the idea that the DOJ works at the behest as the personal prosecutorial body of the president to go after opponents of the president that's an insane claim. And Biden himself has made contradictory statements. And so Garland has made contradictory statements saying as much that these things do not happen. Yeah. It does not happen. There was no communication.
This is like saying that if Pete Buttigieg over at transportation says something that Biden disagrees with, that Pete Buttigieg is not working for the Biden administration. Sure, you can say specific things. And maybe the Trump administration as a whole believed in a greater separation between the DOJ and the administration proper. But it has been long precedent amongst especially Democratic administrations that there is a close relationship with their office and the DOJ. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was appointed as the AG under John F. Kennedy. Eric Holder was called Barack Obama's wingman. Barack Obama would speak about a particular case.
William Barr was called Donald Trump's sword and shield, and in the end, he was one of his harshest critics.
Now you're contradicting your point.
I'm not. My point is literally that the Attorney General and that the Department of Justice, especially in politically charged investigations, along with the rest of our intelligence community, is supposed to work with some level of separation. Otherwise, why would it have been a big deal for Donald Trump to pull in Comey and have conversations? Couldn't he just order the FBI to stop an investigation? Couldn't he just order the CIA, Christopher Wray, to not look into things? Of course not. The idea that all of our intelligence and all of these executive orgs work for the personal pleasure of the president, especially in regards to politically sensitive topics, especially in regards to investigations of himself or political opponents, is a fantastic idea. You can try to talk around that all you want, but it would be an unimaginable breach of norms, and anybody that understands any part of how the United States government works would instantly know that the idea that the executive prosecutorial body of the Department of Justice can work under the personal pleasure of the President of the United States, that's just an outrageous claim.
The trick that you're doing right now is you're saying personal pleasure when I said that they work under the office of the president. Like, don't think I didn't notice that shift.
You're not saying they work under the office of, you're saying they take direction from. You take direction from.
You can order a member of the Department of Justice, I believe Scalia, when they reviewed this.
Hey VG. Thanks for taking care of yourself. You're a good man.
I don't know if you could say I'm taking care of myself. I have not wanted to commit muffin time so badly in quite a while, if you know what I mean. Thanks for the donation, though. Stoned and G. Appreciate it. Yeah, whatever. They're on my desk.
Special prosecutor statute was talking about how you cannot create through the executive branch a position that is superior to the executive branch. Like, not only is what I'm saying the norm in America, yes, the president can fire his AG, FBI director, anybody you want to run down the list of executive offices, he can fire them. For sure, but on top of that, it has been backed up by Supreme Court precedent. Like Justice Scalia, the late Scalia, his writings are clear. There is no office under the executive branch that is superior to the head of the executive branch, which is the President of the United States.
Okay,
like this is like a basic civics lesson right now.
Not only is it not a basic civics lesson, you are so dead wrong. This would be such an unbelievable breach of norms that it would be the lead story, probably internationally, if it came out that the President of the United States was ordering the DOJ to investigate.
This happened under the Obama administration. He asked Eric Holder to look into the Ferguson case. He asked Eric Holder to review the Trayvon Martin case. Like, what are you talking about?
These are not like the politically sensitive cases
they're not politically sensitive, like Ferguson riots.
Of the investigation of political opponents. But if any of that information comes out, I could be wrong.
Kid Boo donated $2. Let me see. Trump is ahead in 5 of 6 swing states. Well, the end is near. Thanks for the donation, Kid Boo.
Wrong. So you're telling me...
Guess that'll be that for society.
Then that of all the indictments that have been released, with all the evidence detailing the numerous Trump wrongdoings, that all of these are they fabrications of the Biden DOJ? Are they not trustworthy?
I didn't say that they're necessarily fabrications. I just pointed out that these are cases that would not be brought against somebody not named Donald Trump.
Okay,
Like,
can you
they're-
give me an example of somebody else that's held on to secret records that have been specifically requested by the federal government for over a year that haven't been returned?
I mean, there's a specific case for Bill Clinton under the courts where he was arguing about whether or not his recordings were of a personal nature or a classified nature. The court actually ruled with the Clinton administration. There are instances where.
Wait, do you think that's at all comparable to what we're talking about?
Well, that one has a Supreme Court case to back it up.
I'm not asking. I'm asking if that's comparable. You're saying a personal voice recording he made. That the argument.
Well, no,
that
there was
personally
more. There was more to what the Clintons had, but like the court ruled with them, so it's not comparable because that's already been adjudicated right now.
Well, no, it's not comparable because a personal recording is not something that the executive has declared to be secret, top secret.
Listen,
or
a lot of these classified documents exist in a weird gray area.
No, they don't. It was crystal clear. It
yeah,
was
they
not
do,
weird
and
gray.
I'll explain why. Because the president can declassify anything that he wants.
But he wasn't the president.
Hey VG, maybe get a job to be a little happier. You can still stream every night. I got back to work and it sucks, but my mental health slightly improved due to the small socialization and feeling of doing something cool. Getting pairs nice also.
I don't know how the fuck you think me getting a normal job would help my depression. What? You think having to get up early in the fucking morning, drive to some fucking fuck bullshit that I don't want to do, and then deal with dumb assholes all day is gonna improve my fucking mood? That is the most bizarre advice I've ever fucking heard for depression. Thanks for the donation, dude.
He wasn't the
no,
president
he was the president when he took them. This is why you end up with a weird problem.
It's not a weird problem at all.
He took them when he had the right to do it. The the Secret Service set up Mar-a-Lago for these documents to be a place where they could be stored.
Wait, no, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. When he was the president,
they were not set up to indefinitely store classified
I didn't say
material.
indefinitely. You're adding a qualifier.
Well, no,
that I
but the
didn't say.
indefinite part because he was no longer president. That's the whole point.
My point is that it's a weird situation where he's able to move these things because he's the president, but then he stopped being president. So then it's like, okay, now, like, how do you adjudicate this?
You adjudicated incredibly simple, the way that it always has been done for past presidents.
We've never had a case like this.
It happened with Obama, where after you are leaving office, the National Archives will do a check to see if documents are missing, if they need to make a request for stuff, and then afterwards they make a request to the person leaving the White House. I'm pretty sure for Obama, there were a ton of boxes that were brought back. They do their little checks, and once they have everything, they leave. There's an official process for doing this. They gave Donald Trump over a year to comply with these orders, and he was explicitly moving things around, okay? Like an old grandma trying to hide her cookies from like the grandkids coming over. He was like moving shit around in Mar-a-Lago to try to avoid, not only was he doing that, he was also he was instructing his legal counsel to lie. If Donald Trump felt like he had the authority to declassify anything indefinitely into the future, which by the way, one, is so ridiculous, I know even you don't believe that, and two, isn't even true because there are certain things, like I'm pretty sure the Department of Energy has strict rules about the declassification of nuclear secrets.
There's a declassification process.
The president cannot unilaterally, by his own ways, declassify nuclear secrets. So even if I did grant you this, which I wouldn't because it's absurd, he can't even declassify some of this. He didn't have the authority to do it.
I mean, the Department of Energy, first of all, again, works under the auspices of the president. But again, I was not making the point that they were all declassified. I meant that he can view and move classified documents. But we're distracting off the policy issue because you don't want to talk about the Biden administration policy because you don't want to talk about who would be a better president. Instead, you're talking about these indictments.
A job will give you a schedule. Say something cool part-time like personal training where you make own hours. But getting up early and working through the sunlight is nice vitamin D. You're pale for a blackie. Anyways, you can still stream at night.
Thanks for the terrible advice. Appreciate the donation, dude.
Which again, we'll wait for them to be adjudicated. Innocent until proven guilty. I think that the president has a natural right, a God-given right, to store classified documents in his bathroom, and we'll see how the courts will let that play out.
Okay, we can move on from this. So just to be clear, you think that the president of the United States can violate every single agency that works under the executive branch at any point in time because they work underneath him? No, so if there's a FDA policy, if he wants to shit in your food, if there's a policy with the DEA, if he wants to shit in a nuclear reactor, if there's a policy with literally anything, he can do whatever he wants.
The DEA controls nuclear reactors?
The Department of Energy, sorry. For the DEA, I guess shit in your joint, okay? You're telling me that the president of the United States at any point in time can violate any executive agency rule.
Hello. You vegan fuck. You are literally vegan. What a vegan motherfucker. You couldn't be more vegan if you tried, vegan fuck. I'm vegan too. You son of a motherfucker. I swear to God, you're vegan. Unbelievable. What a motherfucker. Ha. Ha. Vegan fucker.
Fuck you, vegan spaghetti succubus. Thanks for the donation though, dipshit.
rule because he's the president and they exist underneath him. That's your stated. That's exactly what you said.
I didn't say any. That's literally not what I said.
That is literally what you said. You said these agencies exist under him, so if he wants to violate these standards, he can do it.
He can fire people at these agencies. Like, that is a fact. That's what I said. That's what we're talking about.
Then do you think
he can also direct these agencies to especially to the extent that he's covered by the law? But of course, he is not able to be subordinated by the agencies that exist under his own office.
How will Trump being elected be the end of society? Won't Canada, Germany, UK, Australia, Japan, South Korea still be good countries? Maybe Ukraine would be screwed though.
No, if Trump becomes president, that's the end of the world. Everything is just going to cease to exist, I'm afraid. Thanks for the donation, though, Trump. Appreciate it.
Accountable because we have a separation of powers. The Supreme Court can hold him accountable because we have a separation of powers.
Okay, that's just okay. So so you believe that the president has unlimited authority,
I didn't say
despite the fact
unlimited
that Donald
authority.
Trump, underneath any of the executive stuff, despite the fact that Donald Trump himself literally said, I could have declassified these, but I didn't. He can still infinitely take, any president should be able to take whatever classified material they want and hold on to it into an infinite amount of time.
I didn't necessarily say that. I said, let's let the case be adjudicated and we'll see how it goes. And obviously no other president would be prosecuted for this.
Well, I mean, but you can't give me a single example of a president making anything this flagrant of a breach of norms or of a violation of maintaining an indefinite hold on classified information that's being requested back by federal agencies. No other president has done anything like these things. But you're just saying for some reason, even though, for instance, we got a historic of a guy that's not even related to politics. Hunter Biden, I think, got a federal charge because he had an old video of himself doing drugs and owning a firearm. I don't know if that's like in the history of the United States, if anybody's caught a charge for something like that.
You don't think anybody's gotten a charge for lying on a firearms form when they fill it out to buy a firearm that they're not using drugs when they actually were?
Was that the claim that I just made?
But that's what he's actually...
Some more advice for you. Get a part-time job, wake up earlier. Feed your cat carnivore diet. Play Spider-Man 2. Shave a head. Stop taking meds. Break up with Jasmine. Start a pumping business. Cage fight Blaha or someone. Debate a Big Lenny channel.
I think almost all of that advice is terrible, but I might play Spider-Man 2. I just might. Thanks for the donation, though.
Listen here, dipshit. You better start shaping up or I will fuck your ass. Literally and figuratively. Let's end black crime by forcing everyone to do a Michael Jackson and turn white. That would literally end black crime. Think about it. Niggers turn white.
That is a brilliant idea. I don't know why no one's ever thought of that before. Thanks for the donation, James.
Charged with.
How do they know that he lied on
Because
that form?
you have to fill out this form.
I understand how buying a firearm works.
And he said that he wasn't under the influence of any substance. You're going to tell me that no American has ever been charged for lying on that form?
I'm saying that the idea of finding videos that are 5-10 years old,
it was within the statute of limitations.
Using the video to say that, oh my God, I think he lied on his ATF form. That is an incredible charge. That is an incredibly abnormal charge. That is something you would very, very rarely. I don't know if I've ever heard of a case like that. And you can pretend that it's normal, but if you talk to any gun owner, the idea that the federal government is looking back on videos from 2012 to see if you lied on an ATF form, that is an incredibly political charge. That just would not normally be done.
I mean, first of all, he got a sweetheart plea deal, number one, originally, and then people noticed it, so then they had to claw it back because it was so absurd. Number one. Number
what was
two,
the sweetheart plea deal? About what?
He had to plea to like a misdemeanor, and he was going to skate on that charge.
Because he owed back taxes,
Yeah, but
right?
the firearm thing was attached to it, but they were going to dismiss that as a part of the plea deal for the taxes.
Because most people don't have people going through old videos to try to determine if they lied on an ATF form. That's just
Listen, I don't have every case ever where people use video evidence to disprove something like this, but it's happened before.
Yeah, this video is sped up by 25%.
I mean, if you say so.
People will do video investigations to check if you're lying on your social security disability. Like the idea that people haven't posted video evidence of their crimes and then later, years later, been indicted on something like that is absurd. And also we have a huge regulatory state, which by the way is being increased by the Biden administration, and people get dinged based on ticky-tack violations and end up serving federal time for that all the time in this country.
What are bad regulations that Biden has passed you disagree with?
There's a ton of them. Like, first of all, like he's not letting these permits go through for the oil drilling. He repealed,
didn't Biden okay drilling on federal land? Wasn't that one of the more controversial
you can
things
say
that he did?
I'm okaying it on federal land and then make the claim like he does that there's 4,000
Hasn't domestic oil production been at an all-time high under Biden?
use permits, but then when you go through the details of it and you figure out that in order to drill for oil you need an exploration permit, then by the way only 1 out of every 10 maybe find something like that, it might even be a lower hit rate, then you need a permit in order to like have your drilling plan, and then you need additional permits in order to extract and transport and all that. So he can say, oh, I approved it on federal lands to sound good and whatnot, but in reality
but he didn't dismantle the entire regulatory body of drilling and
Why do you think her depressed then if you don't agree? My advice.
My depression is likely a genetic thing. Because, there's nothing else that I can think of that really explains, why I'm depressed, the degree the extent to which I'm depressed, and for how long I've had depression. Thanks for the donation, though.
transporting fossil fuels, something that is
No,
pretty
he ramped it. He ramped it up.
I don't think he's made substantial. Are you telling me that before you didn't need a permit to
Nobody. What happened to taking a day off?
I was gonna take a day off, and then I figured whatever. I'll be honest with you, I really should have taken tonight off. I don't know what I was thinking. But, yeah. Thanks for the donation, Small Lenny. Appreciate it.
Nobody said you didn't need a permit, but he's slowing down the process of the permits with
How is that
additional
possible?
regulation.
U.S. oil production is at record highs right now. We are more energy independent than we have been in the history of the United States. His approval of drilling on federal land has been historic, because a lot of people in left were mad at him for that. If you want to claim that there are other permit things in the way, I mean, like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of regulatory bullshit in the United States, but Biden didn't invent that. And I think, if anything, he's tried to work a bit against it as we've been struggling for energy independence from other countries.
I completely disagree. He definitely has been limiting the drilling on. He's definitely been limiting.
Let's see.
Limiting the drilling through this gumming up of the works of the permit system. This is why there was so much pressure on him, and this was specifically highlighted when gasoline prices were shooting up through the roof.
Yeah, I don't think that was because of Biden not allowing people to drill.
Why were people even discussing and trying to defend the permits if this wasn't about that?
About what? About which thing?
Like, why were people even discussing the number of permits issued and the slowdown, and then the Biden administration was trying to defend it by saying, oh, there's 4,000 unused permits, which, by the way, for oil and natural gas. Like, why was that whole conversation even happening?
Probably because
if this
people that are
wasn't even a
trying, I don't think
dispute?
there was a legitimate conversation about that happening. I don't think people right now are having legitimate conversations about oil issues in the United States. Again, I'm pretty sure U.S. oil production is at historic highs at the moment. The idea that this is an issue that we're running into, that we're not making enough permits, that domestic drilling is down. If anything, I'm pretty sure the complaints have actually been, now that I remember, pretty sure the complaints have actually been the exact opposite, that a whole bunch of domestic oil firms have had the ability to increase their production of oil, but because they were worried that we came off peak oil, because they're worried we're going to hit another economic slump, they've actually been intentionally holding back on supply and production, because they're worried that if they overproduce, they're going to drive themselves into lower profits, and then when the next economic disaster happens, they're going to be completely fucked like they just got over COVID.
I legit think there's a conspiracy against me. If true, what's advice? Also, if true, you would be in on it whether you know it or not.
I am quite certain there isn't a conspiracy against you. I don't even know who you are, but thanks for the donation, Roger. Appreciate it.
Now, those are the conversations that I remember hearing, that people were upset that domestic production was down intentionally, despite the fact that firms had the ability to increase it. Does anybody else remember hearing these conversations? Am I crazy?
Yeah, this sounds pretty made up, especially when you brought in the whole...
Okay.
Especially when you brought the whole peak oil thing in, which was a nice little buzzword you toss in there. But a nice little pivot to like something abstract that really can't be fact checked and all that. But the idea that when gas prices were through the roof, that oil companies were intentionally not drilling to profit off those higher prices basically flies in the face of any economic reality that you can fucking think of. Like, it's kind of absurd that you would make that argument. Now, granted,
How does that
are there
fly
some
in the face
are
when
there
OPEC literally themselves will raise and lower production depending upon what they want to do with oil prices? How does that fly in the face of economic reality?
Sure, they can do that, but the thing is, if you're a domestic oil producer in the United States of America, not subject to what is going on in OPEC, and you see those higher prices, the idea that you wouldn't, the way you profit is by increasing your production and selling at those higher prices.
You
Like,
can-
this is basic economics. Higher prices draw in more people to invest in that industry in order to produce it.
No, first of all, you just gave the opposite take of basic economics, which is when prices are high, if you increase production, prices will necessarily fall, which is what the oil companies were worried about. They already had all of the major capital investment. They were worried about another huge price slump because that's what had happened. And
The way you profit off of higher prices is to sell at those higher prices.
Yeah, but if you sell your entire stock and prices plummet again, you're not going to be prepared. I think we just have a factual disagreement on what the arguments were over. I mean, people can go and look into it. I guess another
Anything to avoid talking about Biden's failed record. I see your strategy.
Well, I mean, if you call Biden's failed record, I'm curious if you call Trump's record.
A stunning success.
Stunning success.
Yeah,
we can talk about the big thing that Trump ran on, the wall. Why was Biden able to get $1 billion concession from Mexico for investment into border security, and Donald Trump got a $0 investment from Mexico into border security?
Listen, at some point in time, the Trump administration, during the USMCA deal, decided that he was going to threaten harsher negotiations against Mexico if they didn't send agents to their southern border in order to stop people from flowing into this country. The Alamo government actually did do that. So even though they didn't say, here's $1 billion for whatever, they still sent their people to guard their southern border, because we all know what the strategy that they were doing. And by the way, Alamo ran on the right of people in Latin America to immigrate to the United States, which is an interesting thing to run on, but whatever. It was to send his own soldiers down there. That was done by the Trump administration. That might not be this, oh, here's $1 billion for like vague investment and whatever.
That's
actual substantive action right there.
And maybe substantive action, something that Trump never managed to do.
I mean, just look at the border crossings. Like, what does that $1 billion got us? We have 7 million, according to the CBP, his own agency, saying that they cross into the United States under Biden's watch. That is way more than
7 million. Hold on. What is your number?
7 million border crossings under the Biden administration. Over the Biden administration's.
The last estimates I've seen show that there's like 13 to 15 million illegal immigrants, period, in the United States. You're telling me 7 million came in
7
2
million
years,
crossings,
3 years?
yes.
No, hold on. Just
That's according to the CBD.
Sure. So here's a fact check at home, okay? Because I know that conservatives like to play fast and loose. Is it 7 million border crossings, or is it 7 million like catch and turn back, or is it 7 million confrontations at the border?
The number is 7 million border crossings, and as far as the getaways, it's about 1.5 million.
So
to the CBD.
you're telling me, so to be clear, you're saying it's 7 million people have come from
Total,
Mexico,
yes.
and then are now in the U.S., or that
Yeah.
it was 7 million encounters by Border Patrol agents?
7 million at the border, 1.5 million just got away.
You didn't. So 7 million at the border was not border crossing; it was encounters at the border. To be clear,
I mean, I
right?
can look up the number specifically.
It was
I actually had
encounters.
it
It was encounters. Sorry, I know it was encounters.
Well,
So
they
in
listed
terms
it-
of when you talk about asylum seekers, the Biden administration is actually trying to do something about asylum seekers. They've worked with Latin American countries. We've already got 2 asylum welcome centers at Guatemala and Colombia, so that we can start processing people or having them stop off there.
Oh, that's a good backtrack to a Trump administration policy called Remain in Mexico.
That's fine, but the difference is Biden is actually capable of working with other people to get things done, rather than Trump trying to do everything on his own, which he's unable to do so, and he can't even get like his own administration on board with doing something. Biden also has places in Ecuador and Costa Rica where they're also setting up these actual like asylum areas where they can start to process
Biden
people
also
instead of
gave a whole $1 billion to every.
Daddy Gaines donated $2. Thoughts?
What? Who are you talking to, dog? I'm just saying, y'all say you just walk. Then walk. Ooh. Oh, no, you don't. Stop.
What is wrong with you? Are you?
Hey, what's up? Hey, 1 by 1, what's up?
Security guard, are you?
Yeah, I don't know the full context, but there is no way that is justifiable self-defense. No way. Andrew Tate says he knows females, but what's this?
I'm glad our relationship does not have these problems, because me and you, we're different. We don't have none of these issues, do we, baby? I only like you. Oh, except for the pool above. Then things change.
Oh, I don't want to be near you.
Oh, baby. That's not what you do at night. At night, do you know what she does? She attacks me. Koala bears me. I can't even move. I can't even breathe. She
Today
grabs
is
me so tight.
different than yesterday.
Oh, okay. That's good. We'll leave it now. So.
That does not look like something you'd want to share online. Yeah. That is creepy fucking behavior for sure. Thanks for the donation though, Daddy Gains. Yeah, that looks like something a rapist would do.
Every city in the United States of America to deal with their migrants. A whole $1 billion. That's pretty impressive.
Wait, what is the point of that?
He gave a whole $1 billion to deal with the migrants that are in all these cities across the country.
Is that supposed to be a good point or a bad point?
It's called like almost no money since New York has already spent $5 billion on it.
$1 billion to each state?
To
or
cities
each city?
overall. That's what he allocated to deal with the crisis.
When he allocated $1 billion to cities to deal with this crisis, was that just $1 billion?
Just $1 billion spread over the cities.
Was it just $1 billion, or was this part of like a massive $100 billion package that was part of was it the American Reinvestment Plan, where he gave billions and billions of dollars across every city across the United States to help shore up their budgets? Wasn't it pretty historic that almost every city and state was able to bring their budgets
This is something
different?
different. He allocated recently from like executive funding after pressure from all these asylum seekers showing up, which by the way are smartly being shipped by Greg Abbott to the cities that asked for these people, that said that they were welcome. He allocated $1 billion from his executive funds, the funds that he could actually.
You libs who try so hard to cope for Biden really make me laugh. Objectively, every single thing such as the economy, immigration, foreign affairs, crime, the Middle East and so on, has gotten so much worse under his leadership. But please continue to cope.
Sure. Thank you for that, Kid Boo. Appreciate it.
Move around for all the cities, even though New York City alone is spending up to $5 billion per year on these people.
How much money did Trump allocate to the cities?
We didn't have all these people flooding the border during the Trump administration.
All right. Well, yeah,
we had a genius policy called Remain in Mexico.
For the last year, we had a genius policy called COVID-19. Okay, I'm pretty sure that was curbing immigration more than anything else.
And that was used as a mechanism to block people from entering over the border.
Kind of sounds
That's
a little
also
bit
a good policy.
It sounds a little bit like a Great Reset policy there, but
to block people from entering the border.
To use COVID-19 as a means to enact new policy.
Well, this was the policy before. But
if you think that adding new regulations are bad, I'm curious. One of Trump's hailing achievements was, you brought it up, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Do you recognize that this policy is basically just like NAFTA plus with a whole bunch of new regulations relating to labor restrictions, green energy, stuff like that?
Yeah, there are of course there are regulations and in a trade agreement for sure.
Okay. You acknowledge that the tariffs that Trump put on China were one of the largest tax increases that Americans have seen. It amounted to some $76 billion of tax paid by Americans across the United States.
There is a cost to taking on a global threat, and like sometimes you have to use economic policy as a backstop for national security policy. So yes, there are costs to things like tariffs. Like the economic voodoo that people promise, like from all different administrations, that you're gonna do a tariff over here and that's gonna protect you over here and save your job. That's nonsense. But there is a legitimate national security reason why you want to weaken China. So,
well, there's a national security reason. Don't you think that the approach that President Biden took with the CHIPS Act in terms of encouraging billions of dollars of domestic investment into semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S. is a better step than just slapping tariffs on China?
No, because a lot of these semiconductors were already going to be produced in the United States. They were already setting up for that.
No, they weren't. They literally were not.
It was a giant subsidy to these companies that were already going to do this in the first place.
Okay, I mean, the audience, that's just wrong. There were major companies that made huge announcements. No, I don't think that semiconductor manufacturing is moving to the United States.
It was ramping up in the United States. We had a giant chip shortage due to COVID-19. Of course it was. Like this was already happening. You think with the global demand for semiconductors, like nobody was moving to produce them outside of China?
Or Taiwan. No, it wasn't economically feasible to do so. That was the whole issue. That was the whole reason why we needed the CHIPS Act, was to get that initial investment to jumpstart the production in the United States. It wasn't happening in the United States.
Again, it was starting to come back to the United States, and that had to do with the fact that we had freezes in production in China due to COVID-19. So yeah, there was an economic impact of that. And then after that, the Biden administration decided we're going to throw some corporate welfare at these companies that are already building these facilities over here.
Okay, I mean, that just didn't happen, but I don't know what else to say. I mean, you can look up like companies, investment, USA, CHIPS Act, and see that these factories and these companies started to invest.
Yeah, I mean, they took the money for sure.
Well, they needed the money because there's a high barrier of entry to some of the most sophisticated and state-of-the-art production that's existed in anything across the entire world. Yeah, of course they needed the Head Start money. Yeah.
Nonsense.
Well, fuck. What other areas do we think Trump is better than? I'll give Trump one thing. I think he tweets better than Biden. I'll give him that. I'll give a point to Trump in that category.
He even invented his own social media company. That's how productive of a president he is.
True.
That everybody in here is on, including me. I totally have an account there.
What do you got for us?
Yeah, what do you got for us, James?
Thanks to the Destiny subreddit, which gave us these prompts. Who is better on foreign policy, particularly with regard to the current conflict in the Middle East? Who has had a better record in the Middle East in the past?
Oh, obviously the Trump administration would be better on foreign policy in the Middle East. Like, again, he was working to align our allies who had issues with non-recognition of each other against the common foe that is Iran. By contrast, you have the Biden administration having up to 3 potential spies on the team negotiating a nuclear deal with the Iranians. So, like, people who work for the Iranians, including Bob Malley, who had to have his security clearance pulled, that's the people he has advocating for us, literal agents of foreign powers.
Trump didn't improve any of our standing anywhere in the Middle East. He hurt our relationship with the Kurds by abandoning them. He hurt our relationship with Afghanistan by not including them in the Doha agreements when he had talks with the Taliban. He drew down our U.S. force in Afghanistan and evacuated all.
But Biden completed the withdrawal on the same timeline. Well, actually, he accelerated it to have it out by 9/11.
No, it was at the same timeline. Biden was essentially committed to it lest he risk more violence occurring in Afghanistan afterwards. Biden had no choice but to basically stick to the timeline that Trump put him on a collision course.
He had a choice.
No,
he could have left in the winter when it would have been easier and there would have been less fighting spirit. He decided that he wanted to leave in and around the anniversary of September 11th because he liked that symbol.
No.
Making a foreign policy decision like that because you think it's like symbolically awesome is stupid. That's what the Biden administration did. He gave speeches expressly saying that he wanted to be out before the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. Do you deny that happened?
He might have made those speeches, but the timeline was on the timeline agreed with the Taliban on the Doha agreements. The idea that you would wait for that timeline to extend would have been catastrophic because one of the parts of that agreement was that the Taliban wouldn't attack us as we were pulling out of Afghanistan. If you extend beyond that timeline and then you do that with the singular base and with some 2,000 troops that Donald Trump left because he withdrew like 90% of our military presence from Afghanistan, and he did it after having direct negotiations with the Taliban, completely excluding the Afghanistan army from even being a part of those talks. Yeah, Donald Trump in every way, size, shape, and form set the next president up for failure because he knew that he might not have had to do it.
This is a complete misnomer.
What part of what I just said was incorrect?
First of all, you bring up the number of troops as if we don't do this trick in American foreign policy, which is have people who are private contractors who are former soldiers supplementing our forces. Now,
hold on, wait, let me
so
ask.
we had people.
You're saying that when Trump drew the troops down from 13,000 to 2,000, that we brought in 10,000 private contractor people to work in the military?
We had American military personnel. I'm sorry, these private contractors that were working under the auspices of the military to fill the gap. This is obvious. We've been doing this since the start of the wars in the Middle East because guess what? Those people don't get counted in statistics of American soldiers being killed. So yeah, we had tons of these contractors all across the Middle East.
Okay, I just want to give you one more chance on that. So you're telling me that Trump replaced all the U.S. troops?
I'm saying we had a significant contractors presence.
No, hold on. You're giving a general response to a specific question.
I mean,
my specific question was because it wasn't a general drawdown of troops. Donald Trump specifically drew down our military presence.
Yes, it was
in Afghanistan.
on a withdrawal timeline that Biden also wanted to continue.
No, it wasn't on a withdrawal. It was on a withdrawal timeline that he negotiated with the Taliban.
Yes, there was a withdrawal timeline. People wanted to leave Afghanistan. This is true.
But he didn't. He didn't include the Afghanistani army in those talks at all. Why?
Because the Afghanistani army is useless.
Part of the reason why they were useless is because they were completely cut out of any of the negotiations.
No, part of the reason why they were useless is, have you seen those people? It's full of addicts. Have you seen them do jumping jacks? They were never going to be a fit fighting force. Anybody can look up the videos. It's not a joke.
Aren't those videos?
Kid Boo donate tellers, the media doesn't want to release the manifesto of the Nashville shooter. I don't really see why they have such an issue against releasing the manifesto. I mean, they might not really be comfortable with the idea of giving the person more validation or something. But it seems to me like the Nashville shooter, the main motivation was just jealousy. At least from the 3 pages that Steven Crowder released. It seems mostly jealousy of rich kids. Thanks for the donation though, Kid Boo.
Videos of people doing jumping jacks, weren't those literally the oncoming Taliban fighters?
No,
wasn't it them going into the gyms and doing like the crazy?
This was the Afghani fighting force. But part of the problem with the Afghanis is that their military could not function without the support of American these American contractors or military service personnel in order to operate certain equipment, identify targets, and all that. They're essentially a force that needs to be supplemented by us. And the Biden administration not only withdrew the final round of troops, but he was also aggressively pulling back these intelligence personnel. I knew people that were in Afghanistan working in these intelligence roles. They signed years-long contracts because they were expected to continue beyond the Trump withdrawal, but they were yanked out of the field by the Biden administration.
Okay, I mean, it's a fantastic claim that Donald Trump was replacing all of the troops being drawn out with
We
private.
already had these
You're
people
saying-
there.
No,
Who's your favorite superhero and do you like Spider-Man PS5?
Wolverine or Spider-Man would be my favorite superhero. I lean a little towards Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 on PS5 is kind of a fucked game. It's the pacing is just fucking horrendous. Like, to a point where it's practically unplayable. So, yeah, I don't think it's a good game. The pacing ruins it. Thanks for the donation, though, N-word gains. KC donated $2. What brand makes the vanilla vegan protein powder you recommend the other day? Was it Beyond Yourself? Thanks. It's Diesel. It's Diesel vanilla ice cream vegan protein. It's really good. That's my favorite flavor of protein powder. Thanks for the donation, Casey.
No, we just didn't. You're just wrong.
You're telling me we didn't have private military
We
contractors
did not
there.
have private. No, that's not how private military
course we did.
contractors work. They don't replace a sitting army that's
We have
working
them
to
there-
do large-scale combat operations.
We
in the
have
country.
them there.
That's not how PNCs
We
work.
have them there in supplement to our military.
Supplement. Our military force was drawn down to somewhat
and
1,500
at certain
soldiers.
points, we actually end up having more of these contractors than actual registered American military service
Even you
personnel.
don't believe this.
This is 100%
ridiculous.
true.
Even you don't believe this. This is
This is
ridiculous.
100% true. What are you talking
You
about?
don't believe this.
At points in
you think
at
to me
points in
you
the
think that at any point in fighting in any Middle Eastern war, we have more private military troops on the
100%.
ground than actual U.S.
100%,
military troops
yes.
fighting the war.
100%.
Not like people that are doing construction, not people that are cooking in
100%,
kitchens.
yes.
Okay.
Like this has happened. This is the way that we supplement our military.
Supplement. Hold on. Don't say supplement. Now you're saying
This is
supplement.
a-
Before you're telling me this is our main fighting
Okay.
force. The main fighting force of the U.S. armies in the Middle East are private military contractors.
This is the way that we supplement our
you supplement
military
it. You don't
force.
Very, very small percent of U.S. forces are made up of mercenaries or security companies.
Because you know you don't believe what you're saying.
Again, you're not letting me finish because you know I'm correct.
No,
this
because
is the way
you're-
we supplement our military forces in the Middle East. We use private contractors. Sometimes they actually exceed the amount of military personnel that are there. And part of the reason why politicians are so quick to do this is not because they're cheaper, which is what your senators.
Wolverine and Spider-Man shite pics. Hi 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 hi
Thank you for that, Derek. Appreciate the donation, dude.
Will tell you, but it's because we don't count these people in our soldiers' deaths, even though they've been in the U.S. military their whole lives and they just happen to get a job with this. But yes, there are different points in the Iraqi conflict and the Afghanistan conflict where we had more of these military intelligence that worked for private companies than actual U.S. military service personnel. That is an absolute fact.
Okay. I encourage the audience to look that up if you want. If you during the surge in Iraq, during any major occupation that are major fighting forces, PMCs, then yeah.
I mean, you can read the book called The Modern Mercenary. You can learn about how this system developed and like why this is very politically advantageous. It's 100% fact. Now, by the way, most of the time, these are just people who were in the military. So like, it is close enough to the approximate to our soldiers. So when you hear about American personnel dying over there, those are our troops. They just happen to be working for this company that's being contracted out.
Hold on. When stories like this come out, usually it's like BlackRock contractors killed in.
It would be Blackwater. I don't know if BlackRock, you know, that's they're buying all our real.
BlackRock owns everything, so maybe they own the private military contractors.
I mean, you just said they own like half the military, apparently.
So apparently, all the private troops that are over there, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, they are over there. Do you want me to look up the American military, private contractors that are over there?
That are fighting force? Yeah, go for it.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what else. James, what other questions you got?
You got it. You threw me up, Ryan. Thanks so much. Who is better for the economy given current inflation and Americans' current worry that the economy is headed for a recession soon?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to say Biden. I think that Biden has done a good job at trying to keep things under control, but economic policy is a bit harder.
I'm sorry. Shut your face.
Yeah.
So there were 17,000 of these contractors as of April, and the year that we drew out. The Biden administration dropped them to 7,800, and then closer to the withdrawal, they were dropped down to 2,700. This would be more than
contractors. I'm saying fighting force.
This would be more than
fighting
oh, now you're
force.
changing the parameters.
I didn't change it. I explicitly said
now
fighting
you're
force.
changing the
And not only did I
parameters.
say explicitly, because I said not people that are like there for construction, not people that are for cooks or chefs, because as you said before, a lot of them are supplementary. We might actually contract at a company to do like food for a barracks, but those aren't our fighting forces.
I'm not talking about chefs or construction workers. These are the people that were in there. They are working as private security contractors, logisticians, and mechanics.
Private security is not confrontational military force. So you're saying private security is doing incursions into Taliban territory?
First of all, nobody was doing incursions at this point in time in the war in the first place. I said that the Afghanistani military needs us which is us in terms of contractors and or in terms of military personnel, to identify targets for them so that they would do the fighting. The whole point of training the Afghan military was that they would do the fighting for us with the support from us. So these people were supposed to remain to keep them functioning. Some of these contractors, not all of them, I know you're going to spaz out as soon as I say this, were mechanics that actually kept the equipment that they used running. There's a reason why they had all these helicopters and whatnot, but none of them were being taken off in order to fight against the Taliban, because none of them can actually operate this equipment. This is what we had contractors for. This is what I was talking about the whole time. And yes, there were more of them, more Destiny, than active service personnel at that time.
Okay, I literally found the article that you're reading from, and the article itself is backing my point. The cuts are especially acute for private security contractors and for logisticians and mechanics, including the critical staff necessary to keep Afghanistan's fledgling aircraft aloft. These are not fighting private military
contractors. The
mechanics
are I just said that. The mechanic. I knew you were going to say that. I just said, I know you're going to spaz out when I say mechanics.
The article. It does suggest the U.S. is not substituting for troops with money for contractors, which is a claim you just made.
They were substituting for troops, but again...
But then the article you just read me contradicts that.
Again, the mechanics at this point in the war, we're talking about earlier...
You said Spider-Man and Wolverine. Shite AF when you could have said Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Robin, Nightwing, Batwoman, Batgirl, Red Hood, Alfred, Captain America, Iron Man, Ghost Rider, Deadpool, The Mask.
I think Spider-Man and Wolverine are pretty much perfect superheroes. They're very different from one another, but they're both pretty much perfect superheroes. You could maybe say Wolverine's an anti-hero, but again, he's like an ideal anti-hero. Spider-Man basically... Congratulations, you're banned. Spider-Man... Yeah, so the reason I like Spider-Man so much is basically... He was always a really good person. It's just that his superhero abilities let him, like, really, I don't know, shine. So, you know, he was the nerdy kid, he was kind of shunned and made fun of, quiet, and then the superpowers made him more confident, he became more social, and again, he was always kind of a helping, caring person, but then that, like, the superheroes let him magnify his abilities. And what's really cool about him is he has normal, everyday sort of problems that are relatable. Extremely relatable. He has problems with girls, he has problems with school, he has problems with family. Kind of like how everybody else has to, you know, deal with these things. And what makes him like such an endearing character is a lot of these problems are brought on from him wanting to do more good, but he does it anyway in the interest of good. So he's extremely likable, and I think he's like the most likable superhero. Wolverine is a lot different. He's more of an anti-hero, but the thing that's really cool about Wolverine is he has a dark side. He has like this animal instinct to kill, but his conscience and his higher kind of cognitive thinking ability always sort of wins out, even though it's a struggle for him to keep his, you know, animal rage sort of down. And like the people he kills, they always kind of have it coming to them, or they always deserve it. So even though he's maybe not the perfect person, you know, the better side of him always wins out. So I think Spider-Man and Wolverine are pretty much the best superheroes you can possibly make, if we're talking about superheroes specifically. So fuck you.
In the war where we used them as fighting force, but at this point in the war we were supplementing the Afghani army, which is again
you can find
what
that
I just
supports
said.
that, not an article
What
that
is the
literally
mechanic
contradicts exactly what you just
fixing?
said.
Like, you think they're fixing the freaking Toyotas out there? They're fixing the weaponry so that they can...
Batman is not cooler. Batman's a stupid fucking superhero. Basically, he lets the world's most dangerous fucking supervillains live, and even though they kill literally thousands and thousands of people, he keeps letting them live, just to kill more people. Batman's a fucking stupid superhero.
can operate. Like, you're trying to combine statements that I said about different points in the war in order to be like, I got this W. But yes, they were supporting them at this point because this is what we were doing. This is what our soldiers were doing. The Afghani army, because they were supposed to be the ongoing fighting force.
So then, just to be clear then, are you telling me that our main fighting force in countries are contractors or are military troops?
At certain points in time during the Afghani and Iraqi war, we would use primarily or up to equal parts contractors and soldiers. However,
why did you say the fighting force? Okay.
Yeah,
All right, I got it.
At this point in time, our soldiers and these contractors were working to supplement the Afghani army.
Okay.
And we pulled those people back too under the Biden administration.
What other questions you got, James?
I don't know if you have any more on the economy per se.
Oh yeah, the economy is easy. Inflation got out of control under the Biden administration. Gas prices went up. He did all these different stimulus packages and whatnot that led to this. By comparison, in the Trump administration, the average American had $5,000 extra a year in their pocket. Excuse me for a second. And
Vegan boss builds and retailers. Hey Master Gains, check out my vegan haul today. Let me see. Looks like you got tomatoes, carrots, asparagus, sliced potatoes, rice, brown sugar beans, lemon herb chicken, teriyaki noodles. Yeah, that looks pretty decent, man.
Let's be honest, you just like Spider-Man more. BC Batman doesn't have a famous black alternative.
No, that's not why. Thanks for the donation, Batman. Yeah, it looks like a pretty good, oh, food. Looks tasty. Trying to get big and strong as you.
Next time you're asked your top 2, put respect on my name, Blackie.
Batman is a dumb superhero. He would be cool if he was written well, but Batman is probably one of the worst written superheroes of all time. Thanks for that donation, though, Batman. But please, Master Gains, teach me the way of the wise one. Yeah, buying vegan food is so hard, right? Well, just make sure you get plenty of protons, lots of seitan, good amount of calories, and hit the gym. That's all you really need to do. Thanks for the donation, Vegan Boss Builds.
And Biden actually recently announced an interesting thing related to his Inflation Reduction Act that didn't get a lot of attention. So, because they passed this law that spent a bunch of money on the economy, and a bunch of this money was going into red states because of the lower labor costs, Kamala Harris gave an announcement in Philadelphia recently that they were going to try to use the regulatory power in order to amp up the wage requirements for these red states. Now, that might sound good if you're in these red states. You might be thinking, oh, I'm going to get a raise due to these regulations. But remember, this was announced in Philadelphia. And the purpose of this being announced in Philadelphia was to redirect this Inflation Reduction Act funding to the Midwest, to Pennsylvania, to the states, in order to secure his election win. So not only was the economy better for the average American under the Trump administration, but the Biden administration is openly manipulating these funds, which were naturally going to the burgeoning economies in these red states, to redirect them in order to secure his political support. This is disgusting behavior. It's indefensible. Go ahead, defend it. I know you want to.
So disgusting and indefensible behavior would be Donald Trump trying to put FICA tax cuts on employees and then sunsetting it. So not only would it expire if he himself didn't extend them, but so that retroactively all of those FICA tax would be owed by workers as part of the when he was trying to do stimulus for people, because he was hoping they could fuck over the next incoming administration if they didn't extend his particular economic tax cuts. That would be an example of disgusting behavior. In
That's
terms of like
smart
inflation,
policy right there.
you can call it smart policy. For the rest of us, it's disgusting behavior.
You,
I like how anything Donald Trump does is smart policy.
I didn't say anything he does is smart policy.
But unfortunately, the president of the United States does not control inflation around the world. There's not much that we could do about that. If we look around at inflation around the world, every country is experiencing inflation. As part of the G7, the United States inflation is lower than every other country that we have in the G7. Number one. Number two, in terms of gas prices, there's only so much that Biden can do. He released a lot of the...
Have you been alive the past 40 years? The Dark Knight was written well. The animated series written well. Batman 89 made Jack Nicholson $50 million in royalties. The Batman with Pattinson was great.
The series The Dark Knight Returns is one of the few Batman series that is actually written well, in my opinion. The reason is he paralyzed the Joker. So if Batman killed his enemies or debilitated them to the point where they're like quads, that would make sense, because like the villains in Batman are so remarkably dangerous. Like the Joker has killed thousands and thousands of people. He's a horrible mass murderer. It doesn't make sense for Batman to let somebody like that live. So, no, most Batman series are pretty poorly written. The Dark Knight Returns is one of the few examples of it being pretty well written. Thanks for the donation, though, Andrew.
The petroleum reserves in the United States.
That was a disaster. That was for emergencies.
It was an emergency. Gas prices were really high.
Price increases are not an emergency.
It was more of an emergency than the border crisis was that Donald Trump tried to contravene Congress on, because he couldn't pass legislation to take troops down to the border to try to do immigration policy. So it was absolutely enough an emergency for him to do it. Also, again, domestic oil production is higher today in the United States than it has been in all of history. I don't think that there's much more that Biden can do unless we're expecting him to solve international inflation, other than what he's already done. Unfortunately, the president can only do so much with the economy. In terms of Americans having more money under Trump than Biden, that's not surprising. Donald Trump did insane deficit spending. Donald Trump gave a lot of money and a lot of tax cuts. He didn't pair it with spending cuts. Donald Trump enjoyed, again, historically unbelievably low interest rates that probably played into a lot of the inflation, especially in the housing market that we experience today. Yes, if you run an economy at 0% interest rates with a Federal Reserve, and you continue to just do that, and then you spend a fuck ton, and then you give a lot of tax cuts, and then you give a lot of people stimulus, and you don't rein in any of your spending, yeah, I'm sure people are going to have a lot of money in their wallet at the end of the day. But as happened with Obama and Bush, what do we have? We get an economic catastrophe, and then eventually the next Democrat that comes in has to deal with it, while the prior Republican president that was spending like a madman, even though Republicans always talk about controlling spending, gets to claim somehow that they were doing good things for the economy while controlling spending, even though he had no desire to do so.
No, look, the Trump administration definitely could have done better on spending by a lot. I agree with you. There's some COVID stimulus that honestly just blew out the spending, which carried over into the Biden administration, although the emergency had already subsided when they passed their COVID stimulus, even though I agree with you, actually. Like, both of these could have been pared down. The PPP program, totally disastrous. 100% true. But I will say interest rates were cut sharply after the 2008 recession. Throughout the whole Obama administration, they had low interest rates. That did not spur the economic growth that we saw under the Trump administration. Things like regulatory restrictions being removed and all these other factors definitely played into it. As far as the FICA tax, when you pass something through reconciliation, some of it has to be sunsetted after 10 years. That's the way that they got their tax.
Sunsetting is a lot different than retroactively owing what you had been missing your taxes.
Yeah,
that was a new thing that Donald Trump tried to do to punish an incoming administration. Kind of similar to that country in the Middle East.
So again,
one interesting pattern of behavior.
So when you end up passing something like this into law, you can strategically, if you want it to go through, put the the most popular things up for vote, so Congresses in the future have to act. This is why I called it good strategy. Another good strategy in there was the SALT cap, which basically said if you're one of these wealthy people who votes for Democrats who have high state income taxes and all these high taxes, you can no longer deduct those taxes above $10,000, which was a cutoff for the super rich in those places, against your federal taxes, because all these rich people would back these Democrats and they vote for these higher taxes in these left-leaning cities, left-leaning states, and then they would use that as a deduction against their federal taxes. The Trump administration said no, if you're going to vote for taxes in your local
Hey man. Hope you have been doing well. Modern Warfare 3 comes out in a few days. Are you going to stream it despite its negative IGN score? If you get the chance, could you please react to this?
They only reviewed the campaign, not the multiplayer. So, probably still gonna get Modern Warfare 3. I'm just not gonna play the campaign.
This is what Holocaust is right now. There's over 4,000 kids dead already in Gaza. They died of thirst. Can you imagine?
Yeah, so all that data is coming from Hamas, so who knows how many kids died. I accidentally jabbed a chip into my gums, it broke off, and I can't get it out. That's too bad. Thanks for the donation, or no, wait, it didn't donate, never mind. Thanks for the donation, Sneed.
Also, Peter Parker is legit just a Clark Kent ripoff VG. It's like saying you like Purple D Derek Williams more than picture Derek Williams in the comments.
Peter Parker is not a Clark Kent ripoff. There's huge differences. So first off, if you read, especially the earlier Superman comics, Superman was an asshole. Like, he was actually a bit of a tyrannical jackass. And he would do unreasonable moralizing and fuck up people's lives pretty often. Then, around the Frank Miller age, he was, and still sort of is, written as a guy who's sort of pro-big government, pro a lot of control. Peter Parker is, like, fairly apolitical, if anything, whereas Superman is very much politically aligned. Again, Peter Parker is not tyrannical. If anything, he seems to be a bit more libertarian, if anything. There's big differences in their lifestyles. Peter Parker is like who he is. Clark Kent is the alter ego, but Superman is his true self. Like, there's a lot of huge differences. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
What did you think of Matt Dillahunty storming off the debate from Andrew Wilson? Was it in the right or wrong?
I understand why he did it, and debating Andrew on that topic was clearly a waste of time, so I don't really fault him for doing that. I would just say optically it doesn't look the best for Matt because a lot of people consider it cowardly. Thanks for the donation though, Dwayne.
I think Jasmine is laughing at you and cucking you in the background, just a heads up.
Okay, thanks for the warning. Appreciate the donation, Private Observer.
Imagine 2.5 million people. You can't even give them water or feed them. Now the whole world is watching, not just the United States. The whole world is watching them die, one by one.
I'm Jewish.
Yeah, and that's Israel's fault, not Hamas, right?
Understand symbolism and rhetoric and argument. Anti-Zionism does not equal anti-Semitism. It's just a part of rhetoric used to try and...
Yeah, anti-Zionism doesn't equal anti-Semitism, but when you literally support Hamas, that is anti-Semitism.
Keep this movement what they'd like to describe as an anti-Semitic movement, which it's not.
We are witnesses to one of the greatest genocide that has taken place in...
Oh, right. Genocide. That's why Palestinian civilians aren't being targeted, right? Because it's a genocide.
In our lifetimes. And our tax dollar...
I'm done. Like, what's the point of watching this exactly? Especially if he's not going to argue against any of these fucking people.
In your local economies, in your state economies, then you should actually pay the consequences of what you vote for rather than deduct that from the federal government state.
I'm sorry, do you think that people ended up paying more in SALT taxes that were earning more than, it would have been enough income to, what was the cutoff, $10,000 in state and local tax liabilities? Do you think that those people ended up paying more in taxes when you take into account the federal tax cuts that Trump had?
I think, well, some of them did pay more in taxes for sure. And a lot of them moved in order to avoid it because they didn't want to live under the policies that they had helped and advocated for. This is why a lot of these people moved in there. So I actually think that was a smart policy. And again, you have to pay for your city's taxes if you're going to vote for your city and lobby and support politicians that have higher city taxes or higher state taxes. So I think that was a good policy because if you have a no income tax state like the great state of Texas, then you should enjoy the benefits of that and not have the federal government subsidize these blue cities and blue states that do the opposite. So I think
doesn't the federal government send more money? Isn't there more subsidies going to red states and red areas? By definition, blue places just tend to be more economically prosperous than large cities.
The trick that a lot of people will use is they'll cite like the state of Kentucky and say, look at all the federal dollars going in there. But the state of Kentucky has Fort Knox, and those federal dollars included for those military bases count in the federal government spending in terms of the accounting. Fort Knox has like something like 10,000 soldiers in it. It's where we keep all our gold.
I'm sorry, do you think the majority of the disproportionate spending on red states is for military bases?
A lot of it
Jasmine's
is
a giggly little cute mushroom tip back there, huh?
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for the donation, it.
Start a donation goal for a vacation somewhere hot. Seriously, just get out of Dodge for a while. We will all chip in. Here is some masterful training using peak form.
Let me take a look. That is one of the most disgusting looking squats I have ever fucking seen. Jesus Christ, that was bad.
I figured out why Jasmine was giggling back there in the corner. I told her the joke about Richard kissing his grandfather again. It always gets her giggling.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks for the donation, investigated.
You notice you never answer a question? A lot of it? Do you think there aren't military bases in blue states?
It depends on the state, but
are there military bases in blue states?
Is there a base like Fort Knox in a state that is...
Hypothetically speaking, if you caught your significant other actively cheating on you but it was with another attractive woman, would you still be upset? And what if she offered you to join in? Would you? Would that be cuck behavior?
So...
Dude, Brandon Buckham is one of the few doing actual on-the-ground reporting. Take a break from watching fucking talking grifting heads like Sam Cedar tell you what to think and watch some actual reporting for once in your life, you intellectual midget.
Brandon Buckingham isn't doing reporting, he's interviewing fucking crazy retarded ideologues who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and then not giving them any pushback when they say stupid shit. Wouldn't call that reporting. Thanks for the donation, Jason. So, if Jasmine wanted to have a lesbian relationship, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I wouldn't mind at all. I'm not really into threesomes or orgies or anything. Usually I'm not attracted to other people, so... yeah, I wouldn't call that cuck behavior. But yeah, I don't care if she wanted to have a lesbian relationship. Thanks for that donation, Kid Boo.
Blue that's comparable in size.
Is Fort Knox accounting for the disproportionate amount of money spent in every single red state in the United States?
A lot of red states are sparsely populated, so larger military bases in those states, yes, are going to be disproportionate in terms of spending.
Wouldn't the sparse population of a state contribute to its lack of economic contribution to federal funds? Isn't that the whole reason why red states tend to need more? Like all you're doing is making an argument for they don't have many people.
Because it would based on what they're paying into taxes, we would grade based on a per capita basis, obviously, would we not? Like we would account for the population in that metric.
Don't people on military bases pay taxes?
Sure, but the federal spending in terms of raw dollar amount in a state with a smaller population is going to represent a bigger portion of that state's GDP. Like this is like basic mathematics.
Well, you're using a phenomenal conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy theory.
It is. The ultra well understood economic theory is that cities, not saying good or bad, cities are always more economically prosperous.
I didn't say
they're
they
always generating more. You're trying to make it sound like the lower amount of total citizens in a state is going to mean that a higher percentage of federal funds are spent on the military bases.
Jasmine would choose a fat bitch that wears a pirate bandana and has cat hair on her.
And that's going to account for the difference in subsidization of those states. That's exactly what you're arguing.
You're completely misunderstanding.
What did I just say that was wrong about your argument?
If you're spending on a military base a fixed amount of the defense budget in a particular state that is sparsely populated, then that fixed amount is going to represent a bigger percentage of their GDP as compared to their tax rates than it would in a larger state like California. My point is basic math. You're just trying to go end around to argue just to argue.
The point isn't basic math because
yes, it is basic math.
You don't even know how many military bases are in these states. You're hedging this whole argument on the assumption that I don't know the number of military personnel in every state.
Kentucky is often used as an example.
I'm not using Kentucky as an example.
Well, that's great. Kentucky is often used, not by you in this moment. Like I'm not saying you just said that. I didn't hear that from you. Like, do I need to clarify that anymore?
No, it's just a fantastic one-off argument. Like I happen to know that here's a question. Do you think there are more military personnel?
My point is that you actually don't know. That's why you're making this point. So Kentucky is often used because people like to go after Rand Paul on this, and it turns out the bulk of this federal welfare spending, supposedly, that's going to the state of Kentucky goes to exorbitantly large military bases, which represent a larger portion of a small state like Kentucky's budget as compared if you were to put Fort Knox into the state of California. Again, I'm not sure what is so hard to understand about this. You understand that 10,000 soldiers in small state of under 1 million population, like in theory, would be a bigger percentage of that state's economy than in the state of California, which has 38 million people. Like that should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'll look up this, but I don't know. I'm looking up Kentucky's largest spending areas per capita were the number 1 is public welfare, number 2 is K through 12 education, number 3 is health and hospitals, number 4 is higher education.
Is that from the Kentucky state budget? Obviously, the Kentucky state budget is going to be there.
So you're telling me that I'm going to try to find the exact amount of money spent on military bases in Kentucky. I'm curious. Do you think that if we equalize from military spending, do you think that's going to significantly change the amount of federal investment? If we adjusted that on a per capita, that's going to significantly change the amount of federal investment between blue states and red states?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to.
It's a novel economic theory that I've never heard positive from anybody in my entire life.
I think you'll probably because.
I almost forgot. Here is a great new documentary to show all the non-Canadian viewers Canada's pride and joy. The most cultured province. The diamond in the rough. Lake Kingdom of Alberta.
That guy's a beauty, eh?
What does that mean in typical human terms?
This guy's really cool and nice. A, it means I don't even know what A is. That's Canadian. A means everything. A. Oh, you're going out, eh?
What else we got?
Sewer bombings mean you got screwed over. Fuck. Honestly, Andrew, I'm buckled right now, so my brain's not working.
We're here at the Calgary Stampede in Calgary, Alberta. Canada! It's called the greatest show on earth, and it attracts over 1 million visitors per year with its parade, stage shows, concert, and chuck wagon racing. It begins on Canada Day, but this has been going on for 136 years.
None of these people deserve to live. Thank you for the donation, though, Quest.
Could you react to the 2 o'clock mark to the 3-minute mark? How do you explain Jewish people supporting the protest? It's okay if you don't like watching things that don't fit your narrative, just admit it.
We've already seen that part, you fucking dumbass. Great, a fucking Jew who doesn't know anything about geopolitics. Oh, see? Palestinians are right because I found a Jew who's a fucking retard. See, even Jews agree with me. I don't fucking care if you can find a fucking rabbi that supports Palestine. What the fuck does that have to do with anything, you fucking idiot? Cute gains donate $2. You may enjoy this cuteness. Well, that is a nice bear.
Hey VG, this is your Grandmartha, Grandma Richards. Anyway, would you tell her fans to stop talking about Grandfather Richie that way? He would be rolling over in his grave knowing that the biggest memory people have of him is the time you guys made out. Fuck.
Yeah, that's terrible. Thanks for the donation, Grandma Mates. Oh my god, that's a good fucking squirrel. Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh my god, there's another squirrel over there. Dude, I fucking love squirrels. Oh, they're fighting over the nuts. I wish I could just be friends with all squirrels. Oh my god. Wow. Look at him nomming. That's a good raccoon. Very sentient. Oh, he's eating Jello. Oh my god, that's amazing. Ow. Looks like that bear is enjoying his berries. Thank you for the donation, Cute Gains. Appreciate it. Thank you for that. Appreciate the donation, N.
Fuck Israel. Fuck VG. Go Palestine. Ha in your face, Blakesy.
How about, we fuck your mom? Thanks for the donation, dipshit.
You fuck my mom? Well, I fuck your dad's bossy every single day. He is so tight and pink.
I don't care. I haven't spoken to my dad in, like, almost 10 years, so that's great. Thanks for the donation, Mo. Fuck, dude. The fuck is this? Dude, why is it so hard to find a single blade Apache?
I appreciate your support of the Jewish supremacy, my boy. Your work isn't unnoticed by us. However, stay in the US. If you come to Israel, I'd prob mistake you in the morning as you walk around in a blanket as a Palestinian due to your charcoal skin tone.
Yes, I'm sure you would. Thanks for the donation, Netanyahu.
Bitchard, you claim to be all about intellectual discourse, but whenever someone sends you something challenging your nicotine-addicted brain, you start acting like the fatherless, depressed boy you are. Your subscribers laugh at you. Not with you, buddy.
You are so goddamn fucking annoying. Go fuck yourself. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Nah, I don't talk with my half-sister. I have a half-brother too. I don't talk to them. Fuck. That is super fast.
Because there are definitely poorer red states. I think you'll probably end up with more red states on the top or the bottom of the list, depending on how you're counting it, but it won't be so glaring by comparison. So yeah, it's definitely going to shake up the order significantly.
Gotcha.
And the only reason I know this is because I remember this being specifically argued against Rand Paul about the state of Kentucky.
I'm sure Rand Paul has said it, but I...
No, it was argued as a way to insult Rand Paul, and then when people looked into the state of Kentucky, this is what they found.
Interesting. Okay.
Although Kentucky, I mean, technically they have a blue governor, so are they a red state? I would say yes.
Anything else, James?
Sure thing. I'm going to ask this one. Who is better at preventing or reducing crime in the U.S.?
Dennis donated $2. Let me see.
A doctor, and I capitalize off of men. You guys are my biggest fans, even if you're haters. I made over $400,000 last year, and it is all because of you. So you guys want to keep clowning on sex work? Keep it up, because if you guys just came together as a whole, as men, we wouldn't be in business. We are profiting off of you. Thank you. Keep subscribing to our OnlyFans. Keep talking shit about sex workers, because we are making so much more money, and I'm about to be at fucking $1 million this year, so keep it up.
She's absolutely right. Over here, we've been critical of sex workers, as we should be, but we need to also talk about all of the men who are subscribing to these.
Don't care.
I boned your half-sister the other day. Because she was black, I was able to say I'll give you a nickel if you tickle my pickle black nickel, and she started sucking it.
That's good to hear. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
This is actually an interesting question, because I would say old Senator Joe Biden, crime bill Joe Biden, the best Joe Biden of all time, would be significantly better than the evil orange man who passed, what's that stupid law called? The First Step Act. But new Joe Biden? Nah. Like, he doesn't have it. He's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's so obsessed with fighting evil white racism under every rock that he has Pete Buttigieg looking for racism in highways. Like, this guy's not a serious person. This is true. Go look at his speeches. This is not a serious person. This is what the Biden administration is focusing on, and they're seeking to forward forward the progression towards going softer on crime. And the proof in the pudding is in the number of consent decrees that have been issued by the Biden administration, which is dramatically up from the Trump administration. In fact, I think the Trump administration might not have put a single police department under consent decree during his entire term. It might have been one, and there might have been some leftovers that screw up the count from the Obama administration. But Joe Biden, he's going absolutely wild with it. He did it to the Minneapolis PD, who honestly, if we're being perfectly honest, have had no major scandal worthy of this ever in their history, and definitely not in their recent history.
If we're holding presidents accountable for, I guess, crime and stuff that happens in the country, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump loses because of the George Floyd riots, like, end discussion. If we're going to hold him accountable for stuff like that, I mean, those happened under Trump. Also, as a quick thing, I did look up what Sean said, and I can see that the federal funds that were spent in Kentucky, 3 is the Department of Agriculture at $2 billion, 2 is the Department of Veteran Affairs at $2.5 billion, and then 1 is the Department of Defense at $8.3 billion. So
I'm out of here.
I'm just kidding, actually. Department of Defense was number 3 at $8.3 billion, 2 was the Social Security Administration at $19 billion, and 1 was the Department of Health and Human Services at $116 billion. So the idea that military bases are what's playing into Kentucky's like absorption of federal funds is bullshit. And Kentucky was your go-to example, so I'm guessing this is probably the most extreme one you could find. So that's bullshit.
No, this is nonsense. We have a ton of spending on healthcare in the United States and Social Security. But you're talking about welfare spending in particular. Are you counting Social Security and Medicare as welfare?
I'm saying that the federal funds that are absorbed by Kentucky and spent on things like this are
well,
not primarily going to...
How much does Health and Human Services go to these other places?
I don't know, but I know that blue states pay more in federal tax receipts, federal funds tax receipts, or federal tax receipts than they get back on average versus red states that
I'm going to have to go into my Google machine right now.
More sparsely populated. Red states don't have the same level of economic prosperity as like cities do. Not to any fault of rural people, but they just tend to not produce as much economic activity.
I'm going to have to go into my Google machine now too.
VG, this is your brother. First off, Dodo did fuck our sister, and she's sore AF. Anyways, you've neglected me for years as your younger brother. You made hundreds of thousands from YouTube, yet I'm sleeping in random beds with roaches. I need help. Please.
Yeah, I've only talked to my half-sister literally once in my life, so... Could not give 2 shits about her, and she's not vegan, so if she actually is a fucking crack-addicted whore, hopefully she overdoses. Thanks for the donation, half-sister.
Did you hear the other question? Or are you like?
Yeah, about the crime thing. I mean, in terms of like what presidents can do on crime, I'll give Donald Trump a little bit of credit for the First Step Act. I think that reducing the amount of time people are spending in federal prison is in general a good thing to try to curb that down. But our federal prison population is just not as important. And if anything, I think that the things that Donald Trump did there, Sean would probably disagree with. Like for instance, I think under Donald Trump as part of that First Step Act, I think they tried to claw back or take back like how harsh the sentencing disparity was between like crack cocaine and powder cocaine and stuff like that. So I don't even know if Sean would agree with the Trump administration there, but. Yeah.
Oh, for the disparities between cocaine and crack cocaine, if you want to get rid of that, that's perfectly fine. But I will say the crack sentences match the meth sentences perfectly, which, those drugs are similar in terms of the violence that is associated with it. But, if you wanted to do that because you think that they're the same drug and that's a determining factor, I wouldn't be against that.
Our next question.
Sure.
I mean, I would also say as a thing there, it's hard to have a president who talks about law and order when Donald Trump is facing like 90-some indictments.
Wait,
that also hurts his. I think that hurts his case as well.
Can I just ask you which year you were looking at for Kentucky?
Let's see. These are total state. This is on Ballotopedia, and I think the most recent one was 17? I'm not sure. Hold on. But I doubt it's changed significantly since then.
The year doesn't matter, but continue on what you're talking. You can find that from me later.
Yeah, Donald Trump is hard to be the president of law and order.
When did you find out you had a half-sister and
when you're
brother?
potentially running your
Is
next
it
campaign
possible
from
there was a
Jeff.
conspiracy to keep you three apart? Thanks. Also tell us more about her family life.
The fuck are you talking about? Family life. I was never close with any of my family. I just did things on my own. So that's my family life. Thanks for the donation, privates. Listener.
Also.
All right. So next prompt: who is better to help resolve the war by Russia on the Ukraine?
I think when it comes to foreign affairs, the most important thing you can do is coalition build. And if there's anything that Donald Trump has shown time and time again that he is not capable of doing, both domestically and internationally, is building coalitions. Donald Trump cannot, to save his life, get a group of people to be excited about joining a coalition with him, supporting him, and working on solving problems around the world. It's just not his forte.
Obviously, if you follow the plan that was set out in the Middle East, he's very good at coalition building. He got nations like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and all these Islamic nations that have never been friendly with the Jewish state to align with them, and I think that's pretty stellar.
All right, next one: who is better for immigration?
The honest reality is, like, right now, Americans just don't care about immigration that much. It's not at the forefront of anybody's agenda. I know that Donald Trump wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff with immigration, but he didn't. Obviously, there's no comprehensive immigration reform. Donald Trump tried to lead through executive action, which any conservative should be against. And then worse than executive action, he tried to invoke like a state of emergency to fix immigration issues at the border, which again, even the old inner conservative Nebraska part of me shudders a little bit in terror that a president that has such a majority in the House and Senate can't bring his party together to actually do any kind of actions on immigration, and he has to rely on like wartime powers as the president to try to get any of his policy done at the border.
Well, first and foremost, the state of emergency happened, which was COVID-19, when he didn't have both chambers of Congress. So, like, that's why it was declared.
Yeah, but he ran on the wall, and he did have both chambers of
Congress. I mean, there are things that he could have done to pass things more legislatively. Unfortunately, immigration reform is something that many different administrations have failed to get through. However, on the executive level, and the president does have power over law enforcement agencies, the policies that he came up with, and like some of them were creative reinterpretations of laws, which is true. Like
Trump does have creative interpretations.
Well, his legal team has that.
Yes.
But again, the Remain in Mexico policy is probably the most rational immigration policy that has come out of any administration, and you would be in support of it if it came from somebody not named Donald Trump, which basically says you can't abuse our asylum system. And Biden ran on letting these people surge to the border. They did surge to the border. We're dealing with unprecedented migrants coming into this country.
The asylum seeking thing doesn't make sense for a lot of different reasons. One of them being, like, if you're gonna say, oh, seek asylum here, seek asylum here, seek asylum here before you can be allowed in here, that is such a long process. You're basically saying you cannot seek asylum in the U.S.
And now people are feeling the effects of it. So I completely disagree. I think more people care about immigration than ever before because they're being shipped all over the country. This isn't just a problem that you could say, oh, well, screw you to the southern border states. You guys suck. You guys deal with it. So I do think the Trump administration is clearly better on immigration just based on the facts and the numbers.
So, no. First of all, when we say feeling the effects of it, I'm pretty sure like unemployment in the United States is unbelievably low right now. Labor shortages are massively affecting like every single state. The idea that we're feeling this like surge of illegal immigrants like destroying the country everywhere, I don't think that's true. Yeah, I don't think that's true. And also, when I think about like Biden and Kamala Harris, wasn't one of her most famous like meme quotes early on? Wasn't it her looking at the camera being like, "Do not come"?
Yeah, after the fact.
Like, wasn't that literally like their policy of like, hey,
after we get overwhelmed, they're like, okay, maybe this is a little ridiculous.
What are we overwhelmed by?
Why don't you know your brother and sister? Were you not raised together? Is it your mom's or dad's kids?
Yeah, my half-brother and half-sister were not raised with me. They're my dad's kids, not my mom's kids. So, I don't know them particularly well, never spent much time with them, and have no interest whatsoever in getting to know them or spending any time with them. Thanks for the donation, though, Randomer.
Just like after the migrants started getting shipped to New York City and to Chicago, Brendan Johnson and Eric Adams suddenly visited Mexico and the southern border. So yeah,
wait, were they upset because they were being overwhelmed by migrants, or were they upset because people were being shipped in buses by other governors with absolutely no place to stay?
Well, first of all, they passed a law saying that they wanted them there, number one. Number two, one of the big misnomers
they passed a law saying we want people to bus immigrants to our states?
Not that specifically. They said they were saying that they were welcoming to immigrants, that they were not going to work with federal law enforcement. They actually strengthened previous sanctuary city laws under Lori Lightfoot while Trump was president as an own to the orange man, and under Bill de Blasio in order to make themselves seem like the most welcoming place. Then the migrants come. New York City has to cut 5% from everything in the budget, according to Eric Adams, and all of a sudden it's a problem. All of a sudden it's a national problem.
We want to be more welcoming to immigrants? That means we want people shipped up in buses from the border with no homes.
Number two, the percentage.
What an unbelievably bad faith interpretation of that.
The percentage of migrants that are actually being shipped from Greg Abbott is actually low in comparison to two things. One, the amount of migrants being shipped by the Democratic mayor of El Paso. And by the way, these migrants are being shipped, they're asking to go to New York. And the reason why they're asking to go to New York and Chicago is because they have policies that incentivize them to go there. So in New York, we have a right to shelter law, which means if you go up to a New York City official and you say that I want to be housed, then they have to house you. This is one of the reasons why, because they passed a ridiculous law without thinking of the consequences, that they're spending so much money on this problem. Under Chicago law, they don't verify your immigration status before they put you through these programs. So yeah, Greg Abbott's doing it. It is a political stunt. The reason you're getting so upset, and I can hear it in your tone, is because it's working. It's making people think about immigration in a way that they didn't when it was just the problem of southern states. And now, all of a sudden, these super blue governors, all the blue governors like Hochul.
What if you met her brother and had a lot more in common with you than you thought? Was your dad a bad dude? Do you think you'd be abusive and want to fuck her sister? That's why people don't want you to meet her, lol.
Don't care. Wouldn't say my dad's. Well, I guess he is a bad person because he eats meat. Otherwise, don't think I'd say he's a bad person. And go fuck yourself. Thanks for the donation, Poindexter.
And blue mayors like Eric Adams, and I give credit to Brendan Johnson, he's still doubling down on migrants as of right now, are feeling the backlash from it, and they're pressuring the Biden administration to change policy. So yes, for sure, it's more on the minds of people across the country than it was before.
Yeah, the idea that there are these massive migrant problems, it's always a Republican talking point to go to the border, take some pictures, and try to act like this is a massive problem.
You don't have to go to the border. You could just go to Times Square now.
I don't think...
Grand Central Terminal, they're coming in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was in Times Square like 2 months ago. I must have missed all the illegal immigrants flooding the streets, but maybe I just didn't go to the right place maybe I just, I've seen scary homeless people there, but I don't think I saw a surge of Spanish-speaking sombrero-wearing immigrants that are in the bus station that have no place to. They don't actually. But maybe I might be going to the wrong place in Times Square. When you go there, you can take pictures of it.
They don't actually wear sombreros, bro. You just did a racism.
Yeah, I'm sure. I just did a racism, but shipping people up from the border with no place to stay, dropping.
They want to go to New York.
I'm sure they do.
They want to go to New York. Why should it be Texas and Arizona's problem and not the problem of the people who pass laws and who vote for the people at the national level that want to welcome in migrants? Why should it just be based on your proximity to the border, who has to spend the money and resources
I think
to deal with this?
different states deal with different problems. New York had to deal disproportionately with COVID, and I never hear conservatives like they never stop talking about how horrible the blue state New York was ravaged by COVID, largely because that's one of the largest international crossing points in the fucking world in terms of traffic.
They also put the elderly in nursing homes.
Yeah, that didn't happen. And Donald Trump was such a failure in bringing his states together. He cries every time he's doing a speech.
Are you comparing migrants to a virus?
No, you're pivoting.
I'm not pivoting. I'm asking you about your analogy.
I'm saying that different states in the United States have different issues that they deal with. I'm sure that border states, especially southern border states, are going to have a different issue that they deal with for migration. But even the idea that border states are somehow united on their discontent for immigration doesn't make sense because California is a blue state and they probably have more illegal immigrants than fucking any state of the United States.
I mean, that's fine for California. If they want to live up to their values, they can. But the difference is that immigration policy is expressly a federal issue. So you're saying that the states have to pay the costs of this federal policy based on their proximity to the border, but also they can't really initiate any policy to change it. But then you have these people in these blue states, in these blue cities, who on a national level vote for people like President Biden, who said he wanted these people to flood to the border as soon as he got elected to office.
Hold on, just a second.
This was in the campaign.
Biden said, I want people to flood to the border.
Asylum seekers, welcome. He's going to open the gates.
Asylum seekers,
let me finish the quote. Let me finish the quote. Yes, he said flood to the border. You can look it up.
Was he talking about illegal immigrants or asylum seekers?
Well, some.
Can you draw a family tree back to her grandparents? Me and you are not so different.
The fuck are what? I don't know. Thanks for the donation, Ollie.
Of these illegal immigrants are abusing the asylum system right now. Like that's their go-to move.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hence the Remain in Mexico policy. But yes, they asked for these immigrants to come. All the Democrats in the Democratic primary were competing on how open they can make the border. I remember one of the twins, the Latino twins, one was the mayor and one was a member of Congress. His name eludes me at this time. He was talking about how he wanted to decriminalize border crossing. I just forget this guy's name. I think it was Juan Castro or Julian Castro. Those are the two twins. But whichever one was running for president, like that guy was like, he wants to decriminalize it. They're basically competing on who could be more open to immigration.
Well, I don't even know what that means. Like, don't we want the border crossing to be like decriminalized? Do we want to arrest people that come to the United States?
Yes, I want it to be.
You want to hold every single, that's the most open border policy I've ever heard in my life. You want every single like encounter at the border to take all these people and house them in federal prisons?
You arrest them, you charge them, and then you eject them.
You arrest them and, okay, I don't know what okay. So then you wouldn't want them put into jails?
I want them sent back.
Okay.
One of those rapid deportations that you can actually do at the border, which is why they claim asylum to avoid that.
All right, we're gonna go into our Q&A now, everybody. So everybody who was here before, you know what to do. If you weren't here earlier, just make.
Genuine question. Your mom seemed cool in the videos she appeared in. Is she still weight training? And is she still vegan?
Yep, she is still weight training and she is still vegan. Thanks for the donation, Josh. Appreciate it.
Genuine question. Your mom seemed cool in the videos she appeared in. Is she still weight training? And is she still vegan?
Alright, I don't know why you donated that twice, but thanks for the donation, Josh. Appreciate it.
Take a line from here to the back. Please move to the left if anybody needs to get by you. Thank you so much. Thank you for our speakers. And up, your first question.
Thanks for the lively debate, gentlemen. My question is for Sean.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the country and the company that nearly all of our mobile silicon and the silicon used by our military comes from?
I'm not.
Taiwan and TSMC is where all of it comes from. And one of the large things that Biden did with that CHIPS Act is bring some of TSMC manufacturing over to the country. So just point of clarification.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's all 100% bad, but a lot of these companies were going to ramp up production in the United States, and this was just a subsidy on top of this.
TSMC was not.
Okay, I mean, they might not...
Hey VG, you have any myofascial experience? I had needles stuck into my muscles today and I had to flex and it was painful and apparently I have myofascial issues keeping me from lifting at the moment. Sad face frown.
I have never had that particular issue.
Is your sister and brother the same mom or nah? Are you the oldest or middle?
Again, I don't have any siblings. I only have a half-brother, half-sister. So they're both my dad's kids, not my mom's kid. I already said that. And my half-brother's older than me, my half-sister's younger than me. Thanks for the donation, Randomer. Yeah, so Blue, I never had a myofascial injury or whatever the fuck. Hope it gets better. Thanks for the donation, Blue.
Hi VG. I hope that you are great tonight. I would relate to this 100% lol.
Let me take a look. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense to me, for sure. Thanks for the donation, Ben.
In particular.
That act brought TSMC over.
Sure.
I think Intel wasn't there a statement by Intel that they were waiting on whether that legislation would pass before they started. I think Intel.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. If there's legislation being kicked around and you want to wait so you can get that because it's a huge subsidy to you, then you would probably do that.
Yeah, I'm not too informed on like illegal immigration, but one statistic I did see is that a large portion of illegal immigrants are actually overstayed visas. So would you like, fake news, or what do you?
Oh yeah, a huge portion of them are overstayed visas. Like,
so do we just send them back?
I mean, I would do case by case basis. It depends. Like, you know,
that many people?
I don't know what the number of people is, but that's why I would try to do a case by case basis, because if you try to eject however many millions of overstays there are, that could be a logistical nightmare.
All right.
So yeah, you could give people a chance to reapply, get legal status or whatever. Sometimes people go through the process. They get a student visa, they graduate, and then they end up with an issue where they try to get a work permit, that gets denied, and then they kind of stay and they're in limbo. I would let those people like reapply, try to get through something.
And just quick for both of y'all, lame question. I know Dusty can answer it, like 2 good things about Trump, tax cuts and stuff. Sean, I want to ask you 2 good things about Biden. That's all.
Oh, 2 good things about Biden. I will say the fact that he has continued to double down on arming the Ukrainians in this conflict, like we do have to have a check against Russian aggression, and like I think that that's a good thing, even though a lot of people on the right don't think it's.
So your dad piped 3 different chicks? How far apart in age are you and your siblings?
I don't know, my brother's older than me. I think he's older than me by like 10 years, and I think my sister's younger than me by 10 years, something like that. I don't know how old they are. Thanks for the donation, though, observing.
It's a good thing. And another thing about Joe Biden is, I mean, I really, really liked his speeches.
All right, thanks for your question. Next up.
My question is about civil asset forfeiture. So in 1984, Biden was the one that put in for the Comprehensive Control Act, which allowed for civil asset forfeiture. When Trump was asked about in a meeting with a bunch of, I believe police leaders about civil asset forfeiture, what he thought about it once it was explained to it, he says it's a wonderful, great thing. I believe it's a violation of our 4th, 5th, and 8th Amendment right. That they can take money without convicting you of a crime because he suspects it's related to some type of criminal activity. And you cannot, it's very hard to get those money and assets back because the government has immunity. So between Biden and Trump, are any of them making any progress to change that thing? I think they're both wrong.
Can presidents do anything about, isn't civil asset forfeiture, wouldn't that be like a police department by police department thing?
It was actually a bill that Biden supported in 1984 that allowed for it to happen.
I would say, so unfortunately there is some common law that backs up civil asset forfeiture, but I do agree. I think it's just a straight up violation of the takings clause of the 5th Amendment. If they take something of value of yours, they have to compensate you for it, or there has to be due process of law. The Department of Justice can decide whether or not they're going to federally do this on a federal level. And my guess would be, and this is based solely on the Obama administration, that Biden might be more apt to do this because I believe Obama did it, but I don't know. And I don't know if it continued through the Trump administration or not, or if they reinstated the policy.
Quick clarification.
I believe the Fifth Circuit Court just had a case where they used the 5th Amendment to recover, to get around qualified immunity or absolute immunity or like that. They tried to say, well, it was
Kid Boo, donate $2. Naked Man versus steals cop car in Vegas. That looks pretty funny. Don't know what he was doing there, but thanks for the donation, Kid Boo.
the police came in, destroyed my house. The police have immunity, and they were able to use that clause in the 5th Amendment to get recovery just recently this year.
Yeah, I think it's a terrible policy. It is a clear violation, in my opinion, of your 5th Amendment rights. If I had to guess, I would say Biden would probably be better for that specific policy at a federal level, but that's completely based on the prioritization of it under Obama's Justice Department, assuming they're similar enough.
All right, next question.
I'm more than a little confused on some of your positions, and I don't think it's my fault, so I'm going to see if I can sort that out. You're capitalist, consider yourself capitalist, right?
Sure.
And also would maintain that inflation is a bad thing?
Yeah, inflation is a problem.
There's a couple
high inflation.
There's a couple ways. This isn't like an exclusive list, but there's a couple different ways that you can handle inflation. You can either implement policy, and you can try and use taxes to take those funds out of circulation to reduce the money supply. Alternatively, you can increase the number of goods flying around the market for those dollars to chase them, or you can increase the overall number of people. Given your positions on immigration, I'm trying to sort out whether or not you don't understand the principles of the economic system that you claim to hold, or if you just don't like immigrants coming into the country for no particular good reason, or don't really care about inflation.
So, I mean, this is an interesting proposition that increasing immigration is a good solution to economic inflation. So the government spending too much money, injecting more money into the economy through stimulus, chasing the same amount of goods, which actually during the pandemic was a decreasing amount of goods due to what you call supply chain shortages that he accurately points out were occurring worldwide, caused inflation, again, worldwide. Now, maybe the effects in the United States were lower in comparison to those countries due to a number of reasons like having the reserve currency and all that. But regardless, the idea that in order to deal with inflation, we should give up control over our borders, I don't agree with, I'm not going to support. And there's nothing about me not liking immigrants to say that people in this country that are citizens of this country have the right to determine their own immigration policy.
So you're just inconsistent and chill with that.
It's not about being inconsistent. There are other ways to address inflation. Like you just said, increasing the number of goods available. Well, we had a lot of lockdowns in the economy that restricted supply. I would be against those lockdowns. That's a consistent position. And I don't think we should give up control of our immigration policy in order to fight inflation.
But considering yourself capitalist, we don't have it in the Bible of Capitalism by Adam Smith. We don't have it in the various teachings and books and speeches.
Look, the market economy
immigration is cool. We don't have it from all of these capitalist sources over literal centuries that immigration is chill, and you even have it from Milton Friedman that illegal immigration is the best kind because it's the one that's easiest to exploit.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a capitalist. I'm in favor of private property rights and people making economic decisions based on voluntary transactions. I'm also an American, and any citizen of any country in the world has the right to determine their borders, determine who comes in their country. And even though this isn't like a capitalist utopia or whatever, you can still hold these positions. My preferred economic system is one with minimal regulations, people's private property rights protected. My preferred nation state is one that actually has the people of the nation dictating its policies, which are including immigration.
All right, next question.
All right, so I have a bit of a hypothetical question for both of you. Who do you guys think would have handled COVID better? Or better yet, who do you think is better at handling crises and why?
Between what are the options?
Oh, Biden and Trump.
Well, Trump was president during COVID, and so like you can grade him on how he handled that. I mean, it's an unprecedented virus and all that, but I do think, even though I don't like the way that different local municipalities went, that giving it to the local governments was a better option because you could have different governments experiment.
Stupid. Yes, let Florida do whatever the fuck they want and spread a deadly disease. That's basically what he's saying.
On what policies they wanted to implement. So Florida had a relatively limited lockdown. Places like New York had a severe lockdown, and you can see the consequences of that, not just in terms of the virus, but the post-economic consequences of that. People leaving certain cities like the city of New York that lost something like 400,000 residents, not to dying from the virus, but due to people just wanting to move out. California being a net population loser for the first time. So we can see each of these individual states and their laboratories of innovation at work. And I feel like, and the real options at the time were going to be Hillary or Biden, but I think Biden, with this new virus and that new opportunity, would have went for a more national top-down approach. So that being said, honestly, the governors handled it better, in my opinion, than President Trump did, because there wasn't like a ton of national direction on it.
Yeah, I think we've seen a number of emergencies internationally and domestically, and I think that when it came time for Biden to handle things, I'm pleasantly surprised that I think Biden has done an exceptionally good job at building coalition and consensus. Domestically, it doesn't really count as emergencies, but when we talk about legislation, Biden has passed more major legislation than anybody thought he'd be able to with a 50-50 Congress. When it comes to it being an international leader, I think that Biden's efforts to shore up the feelings of all of our NATO countries to get them to contribute more than us to Ukraine, I think was amazing. Biden did a really good job at coalition building. He did a really good job in decisions relating to the declassification of intelligence to keep track on Russian moves, and he's done a really good job at making sure that the Ukraine project, learning from our mistakes in Iraq and Afghanistan, was one that like the entire friendly U.S. world was on board with, and not something that was just a U.S.-led mission with no clear defining factors or goals. I would say the same thing is happening in Israel, where Biden is walking an incredibly fine line of saying that we are going to be a strong ally to Israel, but Biden has been a very strong check on the amount of destruction that's happening in the Gaza Strip right now because of his check on Israel. So, for instance, Israel delayed their invasion into Gaza. Israel was encouraged to allow humanitarian aid in, and Israel has been encouraged to, with severe pressure from the Biden administration, to dramatically curtail or limit or be careful of the amount of civilian destruction, with explicit warning from the United States that you are going to lose support if you act in a reckless manner. Internationally, that was fine. Domestically, I mean, if we look at the differences in COVID, it's hard to compare, obviously, because you had one before and one after. But Biden, what did he promise? In 100 days, he would have how many vaccines rolled out? He had it done in like 48 or 52 days. Biden worked to make sure that almost every American, I think it was like 90% of Americans in the country were within like 1 mile from a COVID vaccine distribution center, which was amazing. I think that when we looked at Donald Trump's response under COVID, I think it was an unmitigated failure. He wasn't a leader. He denied it was a problem for so long. He had an inability to get people to come together to create PPE. He had fightings all over his administration. There was no coordinated national level response for how things should be handled. Instead, it was done state by state, which was a fucking disaster. And we can even see when we look into the red districts, the districts that voted for Trump and the districts that voted for Biden, the ones that had the higher fatality rates, the ones that dealt with more COVID, that dealt with more COVID issues, all of them were states that voted for Trump. And the go-to excuse is always, well, those people are older, which, by the way, is more of a reason for them to be more stringent. But also, when you adjusted for age, they still had higher fatality rates because they weren't getting vaccinated.
You should listen to Jasmine and take a fucking night off, you stupid bitch. You were punching a fucking pillow the other night because you were singing some dumb song. You need to call I Am a Nigger and put out a statement that you're taking a break, cunt.
I know. Okay, I know I should take a night off. I'm tired. I'm gonna take a nap.
Jurian rider, Jurian rider, Jurian rider, Jurian rider, Jurian rider, Jurian rider, Jurian.
Fucking asshole.
ZZZZZZZ.
Thank you for that. I am Niagara. Or something. Or blue. Appreciate the donation.
Ke sakaracho mast didampai mastan harmi gardam. To aham kisha bigan. Ko dio manom band pi shaden harmi gardam. Das te gardos te mano ke agar ke toast. Ank hagis bjayanar resad vegani nast. Shatremi jot moon faxat bishom ye.
Alright, that was a good nap. I think I'm gonna go nighty night, and I think I might actually take the night off tomorrow. We'll see. But Vegan Balls Nutellers, tell me Pecan wasn't the sickest character next to Piccolo and Vegito. He was top tier.
What the?
Yeah, Pecan was good. Thanks for the nation, Vegan Balls. Alright, I think I'm actually gonna go to sleep, and I might take tomorrow night off, because I definitely need some kind of a break, but... Thanks for checking out the stream. I know we didn't do much, but what are you gonna fucking do? Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs, really appreciate it. Sweet dreams.